Woo boy, is it a good one tonight? It's Hotline League episode 165, and it's going to be great because we've officially entered what is not called the spring playoffs, but is called Mid-Season Showdown, which is somewhat confusing because there's something called Mid-Season Invitational.
I'll be honest, I don't want to throw any shade, but it is a little confusing.
It's a little
MSS confusing. And MSI kind of,
A little bit, yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to introduce my constant co-host here in a second, as well as our guest. But first, I want to give a shout-out to Alienware, whom I love, and GameFeel, whom I also love. And I'm back on the cherry. I hadn't had a charged cherry burst in a while, and it's my favorite flavor, and it's just so nice.
I'm on the charged watermelon shock.
There you go.
A lot of ions in
We're
these
both
bitches.
charging, yeah. Anyway, my constant co-host is here, Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark?
Going good. I watched the movie. I'm hanging out, loving life. Predicted both series right this weekend, even though that probably wasn't that hard to do, honestly.
Oh, good job, man.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, a lot of people thought TSM were going to win.
A lot of people are idiots.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we'll talk about that soon, and maybe some folks could call in. Next, we have King of Nepotism himself, Inero. How's it going, Inero?
Going good, man. How about you?
Very good. You are in a very fancy setup, and I just want to say I appreciate it. It looks really good.
Thanks, man. Made it myself.
How
mine.
You quilted or you knitted the backdrop for you?
Did you harvest the materials as well, or did you buy those at market?
Fucking against Valheim or what, man? Yeah, I just went out, harvested a little bit. Spent hours at it.
Yeah.
Hours.
Anyway, how you been, Inero?
I've been all right. It's been a while since I've been on here.
Yes.
Like a whole new team now, but I've been all right.
Life's
not bad.
So what is going on with you right now? Are you guys just all on a break? Because obviously, unfortunately, the team didn't make MSS, or is that or you guys have work that you have to do?
I'm on like a 1 week break right now. Started up, was it like Tuesday? So everything was done. Then I'm back. I'm gonna be doing work with Academy and the other guys for a little bit. Not really like a full break really at all. Not for me and the coaches.
You chose to come on here with your 1 week off.
And Travis asked me if I wanted to. I was like, sure, man.
I was surprised because I knew he was traveling. And yet he still made time for it during. I think I opened up the conversation with, "Can you come on?" Or maybe you can't because you're traveling. He's like, "No, I can do it." I was like, "Oh wow,
no, I'm good."
Yeah,
I don't mind, dude. Well, it's like 2 hours out of my life.
I think.
I'll live.
I also want to say,
fine.
I think I asked you before the drama started, or at least I might have asked you, like when it had just started.
Because the drama started.
It was not because of, is what my point is.
Oh, of course. And Travis sees anyone get mentioned on Twitter immedially.
In their DMs. Do you want to talk about it on Hotline League?
Would you call? Would you like to call me?
Yes. Well,
do you want to do an interview about it maybe?
I cover the space, I'm just doing my job. This is what I do. We all have to do our jobs. I forgot to do this last week, and so I'm going to do it again this week. It has been, I want to say 7 weeks since I reached out to Riot, and they refused to comment on the import rule conversation. So we're just keeping the count going. I apologize that I missed last week, but we'll keep it going.
Nice.
Anyway, other than that, nobody ever asked me how my week has been, so I'm just going to say it's been pretty okay. Not great, not terrible. And right now, Kobe is ordering me dinner, which I will eat to the side of the camera, much to Mark's chagrin. And it's gonna be a great show.
You wonder why no one asks you how your week has been? You literally just said nothing happened and you ordered food. So why we don't ask you how your week
I've been playing a lot of Legends of Runeterra again because the new expansion came out, and I really enjoy it.
I got an emulator for Game Boy Advance. I'm playing Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, and I also had this jank. I think I told you before, Charlie. I had this jank program that I used to make real songs into 8-bit versions, and I've been listening to those while I played. Listen to.
I don't think you did tell me this.
My Chemical Romance, the 8-bit version.
Wait, how long? When would you have told me this? Because I don't remember this at all.
I've been doing it for years. I have this slowly growing collection of 8-bit tunes. chip tunes or whatever they're called. I don't know.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Maybe I'll stream it one time so you can understand what the fuck I'm talking about.
Inero, are you playing anything?
Yeah. Not really. No.
Okay.
If I'm gonna like play anything, I think I'm just playing League. I played Valheim for a little bit, but
Yeah,
I haven't really touched it much since.
I have
much running?
played a lot of Valheim. Kelby and Julie, who are in the chat, both of them have been pushing me to play more Valheim than I think I normally want to. Like I have to because I
It's a
have
fun
the
game.
server.
It's pretty fun.
I have the server, and so they need me to turn it on so that we can accomplish the things. I enjoy it a lot, but they want to play for like these 8-hour marathon sessions on the weekends, and so I'll just have it on while I'm watching the
Yeah.
games, and they'll be doing stuff. And
Well, I was gonna say, don't you have enough computers? You can just make one like the dedicated server.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the what would go into making a dedicated server.
Turn your computer on, never turn it off, run the program.
I guess theoretically I could run it on the Alienware behind me, but
Alienware behind me. Nice.
Yeah. Well,
As opposed to the Alienware in my closet or the Alienware in front of me.
There's the one that I'm
You just
using
got
right
the
now
PC
is in
behind
front of
me.
me.
I like the branding. It's
but
pretty
we
good.
have an editing one behind me. Well,
I can check
sadly-
my Alienware in my living room as opposed to the Alienware I'm on right now.
So just saying, like, you got to go get in your car. Like, yeah, sorry, I got to go get in my Ford Fiesta. So interesting. You really mastered the branding, Travis. Good job.
Anyway,
Proud of you.
let's talk about what happened this week. So, what are the big stories, Mark? I guess it's mostly playoffs, right?
Yeah. We were looking at the subreddit today for the dive. I don't think there's anything that juicy, or at least things that most of us don't really want to touch.
Yeah.
There was obviously, we'll probably get a call, or at least we'll talk about some of the Twitter drama. And then
Probably.
Probably. I'll bring it up.
That's fine. Me and Dom talked. I'm chill with them. I don't mind, dude.
Oh, you guys are chill.
Yeah, I mean, I had
All
no
right,
issue
well,
with Dom.
It was
Bro,
great having you on the show, Inero. I think
Alright,
we're
just
good.
hang
now.
up. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
No. Epic Skillshot became an official VOD distributor for the LCS. Probably not much of a call that needs to be done, but I just want to say shout out to Riot for doing something like that. It feels very community driven. Oh, I will also say thank you to Riot because last week I made a passive aggressive little baby tweet where I was like, hey, please use my
Aggressive?
interview. And Mark and Kobe both told me that they thought it was a little over the top. And
They used it.
they used it. And
And they
I thought it
tagged
was
you.
yeah. They didn't even need to credit me. I would have been fine, but I was happy to see that they did that because fun interview that I think really added to the matchup. So I thought that was pretty cool. So thank you to Riot for doing that. And shout out to them.
I can't tell if Kelsey Moser's being ironic in the chat or sarcastic when she says, I would like to hear takes about how Ryoma and Damonte are irrelevant to 100 Thieves' performance. Thanks, guys.
Oh, yeah, we'll probably get 100 Thieves calls since I know about that team internally, I guess.
You
they
have some
work.
history with them, you could say?
No, not at all. Literally never worked with any of them at all.
Yeah, I think that'll probably be the big topics. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about C9 and TL winning, but I think given that they were expected to be 1-2 in the scene anyways, I would expect that there is more conversation around the teams that lost, as well as the matchups that are actually happening this weekend, because those two teams are off. For
Are
another
we
week,
okay?
so.
I want to ask you guys a question. And Mark, I know like your job is to hype up the matches, but like, I have a hard time getting excited about the matches this weekend because it would be a shocker if TSM loses to EG. I think most people would. I think all the analysts and everybody are going to predict TSM, and then the Dig 100 Thieves match, like, it's mildly interesting, but nobody I think really expects that team to then like make a long run. So it's tough for me because it's like I looked at the schedule and I'm like, wow, we don't have TL and C9 until April. It feels like it's so long.
I mean, it's 2 weeks, but you made it sound like it's April, like months away. I think I'm excited for the games this weekend. I think there's a realistic chance for EG to upset. More realistic of a chance. I would still say TSM's probably a pretty big favorite, but it's a more realistic chance of an upset than 100 Thieves over C9 this weekend. I thought that series was fucking boring.
Yeah.
being honest.
I mean, it was.
So I think that one's a closer matchup. And then I think, again, while 100 Thieves should be I think they're a favorite over Dignitas. It's at least like a pretty crazy storyline if they did lose. And I'm more invested in that. So I think this weekend's still pretty good.
Really? I kind of feel like 100 C's stock has been falling so much lately that, like, I would not be surprised to see Dig take that.
Right, but I'm saying that would be interesting to me.
Oh.
I'd be like, oh my God. Like, because it is falling. But, like, if they go out in 5th, 6th place with this roster that's supposed to be, like, challenging at the top, I think that's a pretty big story.
Maybe they should have hired more OCE coaches. The thing that the thing
so stupid, man.
The thing that's interesting too, I think for me this weekend is only interesting in a world where like TSM loses, because other than that, it's like I feel like that second match could go either way, and I don't know.
I mean, the 100 Thieves Dig thing, it's still going to be interesting if like Dig won, but
yeah,
I guess you just don't care because you don't think any of them are going to like actually.
Well, that I also just don't think it is that
don't
interesting if Dig wins. Like 100 T's.
He's like, how many views will I get in this winner's interview? Well, then I don't care about this team. Unless it's like maybe Afro or Dardock, but he's going to get Fake God and Travis isn't going to know how to interview him. And then
look, if I thought Dig was going to like make some miracle run and make it to the finals, or like I thought there was a chance of that, I care less about the views. I care more about like what's going to end up happening. But it feels like this weekend is, again, unless there's some crazy upset in the EG TSM match, it feels like this weekend is just sort of like we have to check these boxes to get back into like the hype shit. So I don't know.
I think these matches are less predetermined than you're giving them credit for.
Well, hey, callers, if you think I'm wrong or you agree with me or whatever, feel free to put those takes in, because I think it's a fun discussion to have ahead of this weekend. Like, is this weekend actually going to be hyper interesting? Is there a big world where, I don't know, Hanser in the chat trolling Inero? Wow.
So shocked that Hanser would do that. He's never been known for that type of thing.
Other than that, I think we're probably ready for some calls. I think there's some interesting stuff. We can people can talk to Inero about not just the coaching drama, but maybe the Golden Guardian situation. Obviously, the team did not do too great, so maybe there's some calls about that.
I mean, we can ask Inero, would you rather us get a random on here to accuse you of nepotism, or would you rather I do it?
That's fine, dude. If you want to talk about it, I'm totally fine.
Well, let's just see if we get any callers about it, and if not, maybe halfway through we can talk about it.
Yeah.
All right, so if you haven't seen the show before, this is a live call-in show. I'm spamming Twitch chat with the Discord link. Go ahead, click that, join up when you get here. Join the Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls 2 voice channels. You can mute yourself once you're in there. No mouth breathers, please. And then go ahead and post your topics that you want to cover in the text channel above Pleb Topics. You think that 100 Thieves is for sure going to win. You're not worried about Dignitas or whatever it is. Put your take in there. If I like it, I'll pull you into the waiting room where you will hang out until it's your turn to go on air. We'll do a quick mic check, make sure everything sounds good, and then we'll pull you into the on-air room to discuss with us.
And if you are a sub, first off, thank you for being a sub. Trying to climb our way back every week to 1,000 subscribers. And we're at 988, by the way. But if you are a sub, make sure that you sync your Discord with your Twitch account so that you can get access to the subtopics chat, which moves a little slower. Doesn't guarantee you a spot, but it perhaps gives you a bit of an advantage, and also just a nice way for us to show appreciation to the subs. Other than that, I guess maybe while Mark is pulling some folks, I'm going to shout out some subs. Thank you to The Scoop, Easy Stay Safe, Robtron, Community Streams, Backfire, Carouse44, XYosh, Purple Ray Q, Cruelis. Kelby is in the chat and gifted a sub.
Oh, here's a great thing we forgot. First Pro All Team
yes, All Pro. Yes.
I love All Pro discussions. Someone in the chat in Discord had one, but I totally forgot about it. So
yeah, thank you.
That's another call out.
Smillsap, Whoopley, and the Slatherpuss. Thank you, everybody. Smillsap at 37 months. Thank you. By the way, Mark, are any of the takes for All Pro about third-party media?
No, but I think we can just lump that into because it's always like this person didn't deserve this. And
remind me, because I've been doing a little bit of investigation on that.
A little bit of Googling.
No. I
If you
did.
don't have to grow and change your facial hair and your look to do your investigation, you're not investigating. You're
No,
researching.
it was I ran the numbers on what the first pro team would have been. Actually, I didn't run it. I worked with some people, including Tim and somebody to run it. But we ran the numbers on what the first all pro would look like without third party media. Spoilers: there's some
Oh,
changes. Just because in I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, but in the Reddit threads around all pro, there's always people complaining about third party media. I kind of
yeah.
get it because sometimes you just see people that
'Cause that's a
Jose
meme.
Dioto, #1.
Yeah, like the
It's just kind of a meme. That's just
Yeah.
is what it is, you know.
and so I get it. Like they tend to vote in perhaps a more haphazard way than some of the other folks, but I think it's interesting to talk about what the implications of that can be. So, anyway, where are we? I think we're ready
I'm
for
going to
call.
go get a caller. Is that what I'm going to
done.
do? Okay.
Let's do it.
A bunch of people are currently in the waiting room muted. I would appreciate some of the people.
Unmute if you're in the waiting room. You noobs.
Or not, undeafen, I should say. You can be muted.
Yeah,
there we go.
undeafen. Okay, Mark is grabbing somebody. Thank you, Eugene, for the 9 months. Really appreciate it. And yeah, it was Tim and Jordan who helped me with that. It looks like our first caller is here, TulipQUEEN. TulipQUEEN, where are you calling from?
Des Moines, Iowa.
That's not the voice I expected.
Yeah, no, I was not going to say it. Anyway, so Tulip,
Welcome.
what do you want to talk about on the show? Tulip?
Just want to. Oh, sorry, I had it on. Okay. Want to talk about EG beating TSM this weekend. Think Impact playoff buff is just going to be huge. Think he's going to slaughter Huni more than Alfari did in Game 4 of their series between TL and TSM. On top of that, I just think the champ pool with Jizuke, you'll see the same thing that happened with Jensen versus Power of Evil in their series with Jizuke, just slightly different champs. Maybe he busts out the Silas and the Ari as well.
All right. Well, because I'm an idiot when it comes to analysis, I'm just going to point at the obvious thing here, which is like EG has a really difficult time with consistency, and they're about to play a best of 5, which I think is a bad place to be if your wins often are based off of you like popping off in a game at a level you don't normally pop off at. So, are you not worried about the consistency issues we've seen from EG previously, Tulip?
I honestly do think that, but after seeing Peter Dunn last weekend, I got a little bit more confidence in them and coming playoff time. I think them being against TSM is actually a really good matchup for them, just because they kind of square up is kind of like TL would against them, at least in my opinion.
All right. Well, let's throw it to the guys here.
I think he hit on the right part of at least talking about Impact and Jizuke, just more so in the fact that I think their team relies on those two kind of just popping off. Kind of the vibe I've gotten from EG is that they don't necessarily win through good team play. Like the top 3, like TSM, TLC 9, are all usually they kind of just shit on you as a team. They just rail you that way. EG, it never really feels like they beat you as like 5 people. One of them is usually popping off. At least that's like the feeling I've had. It's like when they're really strong, when they're not
It's
just
like
beating
suddenly
up
Jizuke
on
takes
the
over,
bottom
and that's what
teams.
allows them to win.
It's like Jizuke gets huge, or he's just playing one of his like weird picks he does really well on. I think they rely on that. Like recently, it's been like Impact, like oh he's just fucking huge. Like you can't really stop him. They snowball the game through that. Because from watching, like I don't know, I looked at a lot. I went back and watched like how a lot of teams are team fighting to help work on a lot of our stuff internally, and EG wasn't really impressing me on that end when they would get set up. I don't think they were like failing super hard overall on a lot of different macro things. There's obviously some things, but they're not like huge on it. It was more so like how they fought together felt off. I didn't feel like they were approaching fights as a team. And I feel like TSM generally was. TL was just approaching it better and performing better. So that's my like concern with it, is that it relies on their solo laners popping off really hard instead of like EG will be a better team and contest them.
I think there's aspects of their team fighting where they look pretty good. If it's like certain, like especially comps that want to flank. Like the last time they played in week 6, TSM versus EG, it was one of those Echo comps that you're talking about that they generally look better on. It's like Echo Renekton or something. I think it was Renekton. But like they did a really good job of coming at TSM from weird angles and using their TP as well and actually split pushing correctly. I think all that stuff's pretty good. But if they're like a front to back team, I don't really like any of their games. I think were they generally.
If you watch them in like the most recent weeks, like a big tendency that a lot of the teams on like the bottom have, and I think EG's shown hesitancy on too, when one of their solo lanes isn't huge, is they'll have control and they'll just kind of back away when they have it. Like as you're coming in, they'll look at you and they'll walk away and they'll slowly give up ground, and then they like kind of, it looks like they turn to fight when they're desperate, like they have to go, and it's not necessarily like their time anymore, or it's not as like good of a window. It doesn't happen all the time, but I know when they're relying on the other like 3 of the team to like pull that together, like support jungle starting and engage for them. They tend to just struggle a lot more. It doesn't look as clean. They're still good. It's just not on that same level as the top 3 teams, I feel like.
Yeah, I think Travis surprisingly had a good analytical point about consistency concerns in a best of 5 series where there were some of those really sketch games out of Svenskeren recently. He had a Mundo game where he was just caught on an invade that was just way too aggressive. There was a Hecarim game where he was like contesting, I think it was against Dig, like Skarner's Scuttle Crab or his Spire, and kind of got himself killed. And like Jizuke has had some. We went back. I went back and looked at a couple of the other plays. Azael found a couple. We were talking about it because in the previous episode, Jizuke was in the Twitch chat and was like, "What do you?" I don't think I've coin flipped quite as much. And we looked at a couple plays. There was like a Rise game or two where like he went for some really aggressive stuff. But I think either way, there's times where the whole team gets too aggressive, either as a unit or in the individuals. And over the course of a series, those can add up to be really hard. Because if you throw a game that you should have won, you get 3-1 pretty quick. That's basically what happened to the TSM TL series. It's like TSM should have won game 1, but they fucked it up, and then now the series is over almost.
Mark, are you suggesting that based on your review, the Jizuke coin flip meme is like overdone?
So yeah, it's definitely, I think, at least this split, overdone. I don't think he's had as many like things, because I did when he called me out, I was like, oh, I should go check and make sure this is not like just some bullshit that people spew. And I think he's been a lot more consistent this split. He still has. I said that like, oh, he has the most deaths in the LCS when we were talking about that last week for mid laners, excuse me, behind the Golden Guardians players.
We know who's number 1 on that one, I think.
Yeah. But Jizuke also, his deaths percent wasn't that high, because like Impact was in top 3 for his role. Svenskeren was in top 3 for his role. Like this is a team that just like dies a lot because they're really scrappy and they will take fights that will go 3-3 or whatever. And so, that's more how the entire team is, I think, than a Jizuke alone, kind of like in East Bumfuck dying for some reason kind of thing. So that is one of the concerns for this team, is that they will have these fights that are just not great fights and they don't back away from them when they should have.
But I think they'll
keep going late.
They're good players individually. I think across the board, like most of them, like they're good, but it's just they're not necessarily in sync on what they all want to do. That's just the feeling I've got from watching on the outside. I don't know what it's like internally, obviously, but it just doesn't seem like they agree on everything to do together.
So stepping away from the coin flips around specific plays, is it safe to say that like Jizuke is like feast or famine in terms of his participation in the games? Because it does feel like there's a lot of games where it's like, wow, Jizuke just took over, and then it does feel like there's a lot of games where it's like, oh, this is not a good game for Jizuke, and it doesn't feel like there's a lot of games where it's like, oh, this is somewhere in the middle.
I feel like he's had games where he's just somewhat in the middle of the split. I think in the past it was like really heavy like that, where like you just knew this guy was gonna ram his face into your turret constantly, and he would push. But like I think it's less so like that now. It's not as extreme.
He's played more standard control mages this split than I think people would realize if they look back on it. He's played 5 Orianna games, 3 Azir, so that's 8 of your 18 games on standard control mages, and then the rest are kind of a little bit more all over the place. So he definitely is not like PoE who only plays the 4 standard control mages, but in those control mage games, I think he's been good, but they just are not the kind of champions that you can like. Oriana's never going to be like, oh my god, what was that Oriana thinking? Because it's like, well, I pressed shockwave when I hopefully hit 3 people.
I mean, I think regardless of, even if people feel like he's kind of the coin flip narrative for them, what he brings with the fact that he does have those like weird picks he'll pop off on and like actually carry their team through is a lot. Just being able to do that and have that threat is it's pretty important. It's similar to like when 100 Thieves at the beginning were winning. It's like you would kind of just ban TF versus them always. It's just like annoying that that was something you had to deal with because they would perform really well on it. So you have to think about the same with him, and that provides a lot for their team.
You're gonna play,
what do you?
most
ahead,
people would blind. I was gonna say, like for example, most people would blind Syndra in the current meta and basically not really have to give a shit about counter picks too heavily. I don't think like if you get against Jisuke, he'll play Echo into it, and it's gonna be really annoying for you the whole game because your Syndra doesn't want to match him in side lanes and stuff. And I don't think that many people have assassin split push counter picks prepared for your pretty standard control mage.
What do you think of my prediction that the series will go to 4 or 5 games? Each game will look one-sided, and TSM will probably end up winning in the long run. Because it feels like, having watched a lot of these EG games over the course of the split, it doesn't feel like there's going to be like, wow, this is neck and neck, and like we're 35 minutes in, and gold is just like within 1,000 gold of each other, and they're trading objectives all the time. It feels like we're just going to see a one-sided match, and then a one-sided match, and then a one-sided match, and then I don't know, whatever will end up happening happens in the next, in game 4 or 5.
I can see it. I can see it happening. I think more so I would be on the side of I think it'll go to like 4, 5 games, possibly. Because I think there is a chance for, like I said, Impact and Jizuke to kind of just carry through it. Because the rest of their team is just solid on their own. Like, definitely Ignar are never really going to like lose you the game early on at all.
Mark, I thought
They're
you
always
smiled
pretty
because
good.
I thought you liked my take, but now I'm realizing you got distracted by something.
Well, I'm doing my job of reading Twitch chat and stuff like that.
Okay.
I mean, Discord to pull people. I was also smiling because you just made like it's kind of a random prediction. I think games will be close, and then one team will win.
No, I said I think TSM will win.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're going to be close. I'm saying it's the opposite. They're going to be like stompy.
I thought you were saying that they would it'd be back and forth.
No, I'm
I said
saying
whoever
one
wins
side
will
will be stomp, then
Each
the next
one.
game will be a stomp, and it will go to 4 or 5 games, but every game will feel very one-sided.
Maybe. Could be.
I am
Thanks,
shaking my salad, okay? Twitch.
I like how
chat.
you wait till like the 1 or 2 hours you're going to be doing a show and you're like, I'm going to eat.
I say this every time.
Okay.
I ate like before the show, so
I ate
I'm
while
not just
watching
sitting
my
here
movie.
eating.
Here's the thing. I do dinner with Kobe. All right, we always do dinner together. It's our thing. We go to we order from a place, potentially using Grubhub, and he gets hungry at a certain time of day, and I cannot make this man eat early or late. I respect my roommate. All right.
Then eat alone. Me and Ashley have this thing where we usually hang out from 7 to 9 p.m., usually watching a movie. Does that mean that I can now do Hotline League from my couch while actually watching a movie?
I mean, I don't think that would be very good content.
I don't think you eating a salad's good content.
Well,
Mark
good
has
thing
a
that that's not the majority of what's going on here.
Did Inero freeze? Or is he really happy?
He did freeze. An arrow, you here still? All right. Well, we lost an arrow.
Wait, he said BRB lol
Wait, what? He said that?
in Twitch chat, yeah.
What the hell? Okay. Anyway,
This is the worst timing too, where it's like, we need a new caller. We need.
TulipQUEEN. What do you think of what an arrow and Mark said here? Do you disagree with any of this?
No, they make good points. I just really was wondering if they think TSM playing the same way they did against TL is good enough for them to beat EG and also just go forward in the tournament. Do you think they're going to make any changes, or are they just going to play late and scale really and that's about it. Weather the storm early.
For TSM, they played a little bit more early game oriented in one of their games. I'm pretty sure. It was game 2, was it? I'm sorry, I'm pulling up the games real quick. Yeah, I mean, Lucian and Rumble's pretty fucking early game oriented. I mean, they lost that game, to be fair, and it was not a great game out of them, but I think that they have branched out to be more early game oriented a couple of times this split. Also, like their Jace, Syndra games and stuff like that. I think they have that play style in their back pocket. I don't think it's their best play style, and they'd rather play, like you said, a little bit more reactive and scaling focus. But I don't think that they're opposed to trying a couple of things out if they need to.
I just noticed earlier, Inero said you ever unplug your PC by accident. So I guess that's what happened, is he unplugged his PC by accident.
And they went for like the quick pivot on his phone to Twitch chat to say
probably,
BRB lol.
Yeah. Well, Tulip, I appreciate the call. Is there anything you want to say before we move on to our next caller?
Yeah. I'm a long-time lurker, first-time caller. Just got some game fuel off their website. Really quick and easy shipping. Use Travis's code. Just appreciate you guys and all the stuff you do. Have
what
a good
flavor
one.
did you get?
Variety pack. The blue and the red are the best, though.
Yeah, I prefer the red a lot over the blue. They did like a poll recently on their Twitter about which one was best, and I think red lost out to blue, and I was very salty because I was going to rig. I didn't know. I was unsure if this was going to get me in trouble, but I had thought I was planning on quote tweeting and rigging it to get people to vote for Cherry Burst over Berry Blast, and then I just missed like the window to do it. I don't know if they would have been annoyed by me doing that, so perhaps I should have. It's a good thing I dodged it. But anyway, thank you so much, Tulip, for the shout out. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the call.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Are we waiting for Inero?
I mean, I think we should just move on because.
I mean, I'm here.
Oh, he's
I'm
back.
just fixing my camera.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I was there for a little bit.
Okay.
It's just
he just I like how we're talking about him. He just
Inero.
bursts back in and is like, "Hello, here I am."
Say one thing
I
for Inero.
I just fixed it.
Say he has a flair for the dramatics.
Yeah. Are you reading? Okay, you left.
Okay.
You left. All right. We are back. Let's see. Shout out to Kelby for gifting a sub. TJ Mackey, Charlo61, X Adam X. It's my birthday, says X Adam X. Happy birthday, X Adam. Thank you for the sub on your birthday. Ghost Han for 13 months, EO120, Omega Diamond Zinc, and Lord Goof. We're joined right now by JNT, who is one of the hosts of the podcast, which name I forget. What is it called again?
The Clown Fiesta Podcast.
Clown Fiesta Podcast, that's right. Where are you calling from?
San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio, Texas. You're a little quiet. I've turned you up to 200%. I don't know if you can get your mic closer, but...
I will speak louder.
Okay, thank you. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, I was calling with regards to the All-Pro voting, but mainly because I didn't think that Perkz actually deserved to be first-team All-Pro, and I really thought that he should have been third behind Power of Evil number 1 and Jensen number 2. And just as a little side note, I also thought that Aframood more deserved to be number 3 over Sword Art. And my main kind of concerns with the voting is the way that it all panned out. It kind of seemed like people tended to value pop-offs over consistency, which I think in terms of, all-pro voting, which you're supposed to pick the best players from the split, it should be kind of viewed as the opposite, where I think consistency should be valued over pop-off. I think if you specifically look at Perkz versus Jensen and Power of Evil, both Power of Evil and Jensen were more consistent over the entirety of the split, kind of just having great splits in general, whereas Perkz, he had those really high highs with that Tristana game, and he had some really pop-off plays throughout the season, that Aurelia game that he had against Dignitas, I think it was. But in the same sense, Perkz also kind of had a lot of int moments in the split, where even in that same Aurelia game, kind of ended up dying a bunch, and throughout the entirety of the split, got caught out in the side lanes a bunch. But that's mainly it.
If your philosophy is true, wouldn't Jizuke have been in the top 3?
Well, me and Blue Jay, we had our own all-pro voting predictions, and we both considered Jizuke number 3 along with Perkz.
I guess I'm just saying, if you think that people valued these pop-off moments and did not value or did not look to like the mistakes and errors that they made, Jizuke would have been like a perfect example of that because he has high highs and low lows.
Yeah, I think, you can follow the same logic with that as Perkz. I think Perkz is just better than Jizuke and had a better split than Jizuke, like following that logic. But like I said, the way that I went with it is I kind of put consistency over pop-off. And, if it was the other way around, I probably would have had Perkz 1, Jizuke 2, then Power Wheel 3 or something like that.
I think a lot of people also... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Travis.
I was just going to say, just as an aside, so there's a lot of people that always complain, I talked about this earlier in the show, about third-party media voting. The first pro team would have been exactly the same, Alfari, Blabber, Zvan, and CoreJJ, except Power of Evil would have been in over Perkz if you did not have third-party media voting, which I thought is an interesting thing. So go ahead, Inero.
I was going to say, I think people also vote on this, at least from like the team side, on what these people kind of provide internally to the team that might get missed. So it can kind of be hard to just like discount that part of things when you know a bit about how like these players work internally for their team or how much they provide. And the consistency aspect of things, like I can get like wanting to vote more so on that. And I think a lot of people do generally focus on it, but I don't know. I think the media side of things, those people are always going to like heavily favor like pop-off moments because they remember it. But I think usually you'll find that the like team aspect of thing is usually favoring the people that are more consistent overall. So I think like the media part just kind of weighs that too. Like I don't really know what else to argue on the point between these guys. Like I think for me, the mid 3 thing was pretty close, honestly. Between like those 3, I put like Perkz and then PoE Jensen, but I was pretty willing to like swap around between people.
Fun
put a lot
fact.
of weight in like what our guys on the team thought.
Fun fact, I put PoE first. Mark put him second. Or sorry, Mark put Perkz first.
Yeah, I thought Perkz was better. I think PoE does what PoE does, and he's really good at it. But I do value. It's not even pop off. It's just proactivity and playmaking, and individual ability to influence games. I think PoE does have that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he doesn't, but it's almost like time gated to post 15 minutes. He rarely does a ton pre 15 minutes, and it is partially a symptom of the champions that he's playing. Of course, like you're playing Azir, you're playing Orianna, and whatnot, but he played Syndra a number of games. It's not like Syndra is this champion that's incapable of making things happen, and didn't have any incredible performances. I mean, the one that jumps out the most is like the one where it's actually tactical, just not respecting Syndra and dying on Tristana a bunch of times. And this is not a shot at PoE. I'm just obviously arguing the worst parts of him right now because I'm putting my position for Perkz. I don't think he did more to win games for TSM, you could argue, than PoE did. PoE had a wider range of champions that he was actually able to pivot or play quite well. He made a lot of plays in the mid to early game. He could 1-3-1. He did a lot of things for his team that I don't think PoE did. And I think PoE was really fucking consistent, to your point. Like there's almost no games I can point to into moments like you're talking about. But at the same time, I can be like, well, point me to a moment where he won his team the game or made a huge play in the first 15 minutes. And there's really not that many.
JNT, you disagree with Mark.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you are correct in the fact that there wasn't necessarily like a singular moment, or you can't point to any specific instance where Power of Evil like straight up won the game for his team. But like you also said, he kind of plays his own unique play style where, yes, maybe he doesn't do a whole lot in terms of proactivity in the early game and kind of just plays for himself in the first 15 minutes, with great laning. Always is usually around 10 CS a minute. But, I would argue that past 15 minutes, he does do a lot for his team in terms of his role and his job, once he is like that late game control mage. Because I would also point to it, it's like TSM like plays towards that kind of style. It's not like that TSM is a super early game active team and, Power of Evil, he's just doing his thing, sitting in the mid lane farming. TSM is quite often, scaling up for late game. And I think Power of Evil does that job of late game team fighting and damage output the best out of all those mid laners.
Yeah, and I mean the same way that you talk about, the roles that they play. Like he is playing Azir, Orianna almost like the majority of his games, whereas other people are playing Yone and things that aren't going to have fat deeps in team fights and stuff like that. And even then, like Jizuke had more DPM, you could argue, and stuff like that. He was pretty low in CSD and some of the laning stuff. I mean, again, partially the champions he's playing, but like I thought there were players who did more for their teams and have more complete games, which is why I put Perkz number 1. I still put PoE number 2. I think he had a great split. I'm surprised to hear Jensen over Perkz and stuff like that. I can't get behind that at all. Those are the ones where I'm actually more surprised at.
I think to finish my side of this too, something that you can't go through and watch like Pro View this year.
Yeah,
which is kind of annoying for all of these things. So you miss a lot of like the actual laning shit versus these people, except for when you play versus them. But one of the annoying things between like PoE and Perkz is Perkz has a lot of stuff he can pull out against you when you're trying to draft and try to figure out how to like game plan against them. In PoE, you know exactly what he's going to pick pretty much every single game. And I think that's something you kind of have to factor in, that they're both putting up like really good performances. So I can understand like wanting to argue one way or the other, but I think Perkz is putting up a lot more of that across like different champions and different styles, and it's hard to always be prepared and play around as a team. He's more like flexible to like counter what your team is doing and isn't necessarily just playing like his same way every single game, which can be really, really annoying to deal with. And I think that's a big factor you have to consider.
Yeah.
That's what I considered for like putting him first overall. Like I said, everything else.
You had another take, JNT, which you felt, it sounds like you thought Afro got snubbed.
Yeah, kind of just like a quick aside. I was more adamant about the whole Perkz one than the Aframu one, but I definitely think that Aframu probably should have been third over Sword Art. I think, Mark, you had him on there, I think. If I remember.
I thought Sword Art, the argument that I make was the Sword Art one is that I think Sword Art is better than Afro and maybe ended the split playing better than Afro. But when I talk about these things, I often talk about performance. Sword Art's beginning to the split was really rough, and not just like he's not playing that well and not making big plays. Like he was running it a little bit and mechanically missing things all over the place, starting off dives that were never going to work, and really struggling. And TSM turned it around as a team, and they're really good. And like if you ask me who I want as my support, I'm probably picking Sword Art over Afro. But when I look at the 18 games that they played, Afro did not have turbo in moments, like a whole stretch of them at least. I'm sure he made some bad plays. Everyone has struggles and stuff like that, but there was quite a few early on the split and quite a stretch out of Sword Art before he turned it around, and they used Shen and some Pantheon globals, and then he kind of got his feet under him, it seemed like, and then after that had been great. And so I think Sword Art is really good, and in summer could easily take top 3, but I didn't feel like his beginning was strong enough compared to other people.
Yeah, I agree. I followed the same logic. I definitely think that Aframu was just better over the whole split, but Sword Art definitely had a great end to his split.
I could see the argument for it. I think for me, like the first 2 supports are pretty straightforward for it. But at least the same thing that got me to vote for Dardoch for third jungle, even though I didn't necessarily think he was the third best jungler, was just like what he provides to the team. And I felt like you could probably argue that for Afro too. I think like Dig has really relied on like their support jungle kind of carrying them through everything, like getting them started, like getting fights going and controlling that team and leading it. So I can see that argument over anyone else, even though I didn't vote that way.
Well, and I think it's I think we talked a lot. There's been a lot of discussion for the people that did vote in this about how difficult it was to vote this split. It feels like in a lot of positions it was far more difficult than normal. Sometimes there'd be like a standout person, like obviously Alfari won every single vote that he could, I think, except for from Huni. And I guess also Izento put Impact first, but then in other roles it just becomes, or other spots it just becomes really difficult, like ADC or I don't know, support.
I think I messaged you this. I think for the most part, the 1-2 for a lot of things felt relatively easy. But support had, I felt like 5 players that you could honestly put and not have people meme you for. And a lot of the other ones had 3-4s. Like Dardoch or Spica felt, pretty close to me for jungle. Top lane, it was, Huni and who was the other person that? There's Impact and Alfari were 1-2 easy. I forget who else I was considering. I said
he was
Huni.
saying Huni.
Oh,
There was someone else I was considering for 4 that I can't remember.
Fake
now.
God, maybe?
Fuck it. I don't think it was Fake God, but maybe. Who knows? Either way, my point is that there were a number of people that you could consider for a lot of the last positions. And I think that is a large part due to like some teams underperformed. TL having, a 3rd place finish when many people thought they'd be the best team in the league and struggling for a little bit in the middle and stuff like that really throws up your preconceived notions of who you'd want to vote. Like, yeah, I'd love to put Jensen second most of the time or 3rd easily, but and same with Tactical. Maybe he could be 3rd in a lot of splits, but Neo played really well and Tactical struggled. Now you're in an interesting conversation for 3rd.
Yeah. It felt like there were not as many standout players this time around. One quick question before we move on to a quick break, but one of the big discussion points in the Reddit thread, I think, was about people claiming that CoreJJ got first just off brand recognition or whatever. Like, people just think CoreJJ is so good that, I don't know, he shouldn't have ended up in that situation. So I'm curious what you guys think of that.
Yeah, I think it's close. I just gave the edge to Vulcan. I think that's who I put as first. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of it just kind of happens for everything though. Like, name recognition will definitely get you more votes. Like, the media side's definitely going to vote for you more often. But I think like you could just argue it if like TL didn't perform as well, so people put CoreJJ lower. But I just felt like they went through like a rough patch together, and the reason I voted Vulcan is because I felt like he was solid the entire time, despite the fact that they weren't always playing the best. Like, usually people look at Sven Vulcan like these guys are unbeatable, like they're impossible to play versus, and that's like the community perception, and they weren't having like necessarily that dominant of a split to start. But like Vulcan was still doing really well. Like, they eventually got back to just playing like really dominant again. I felt like Vulcan was just consistent the whole time. That's why I voted for him. But Core was still like by far like top 2.
Yeah.
I thought for those 2, like they were clearly the top 2, and it wasn't really as close with the others.
Well, J&T, thank you so much for the call.
It.
Anything you want to shout out before we go on to a quick break?
Guess I'll shout out Tom Shu mainly because I was about to post the same take as him, but he posted it first, so I had to change mine. So thank you, Tom Shu. I got on the show because of you this week.
There you go. Thanks, J&T.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Yeah, have a good one.
We're a good one, man.
All right.
More?
We're going to take a quick break.
After 2 callers, Travis.
What?
What? Nothing, man.
Okay. I don't know how many people out here like Cherry, but a lot of us use Cherry every day, and we might not think about it. I'm talking, of course, about Cherry switches in the keyboards that we all use. And what's awesome is now, I believe for the first time ever, Cherry has partnered with a laptop notebook manufacturer in Alienware to bring Cherry switches to a notebook. So if you're into gaming and you hate the fact that like maybe you just don't like laptop or notebook keyboards normally, maybe you feel like you always have to bring one. Well, now as an upgrade to the M15 and M17 that you can go get at alienware.com/Travis, you can actually upgrade to Cherry switches. And Alienware and Cherry work together on this. In fact, if you go to alienware.com/Travis, which I'll put in the chat right now, they switched the banner out at the top of my page to just show the Alienware X Cherry. It's like a big link you can click. So you can click over to it and you can read about how they've brought in these new switches to the laptops, to the notebooks. and how they co-developed it, and you can sort of see the way that the Switch works and learn all about this. So it's pretty cool now that you can get this type of thing in a notebook. Again, first time to my understanding that this has been available in a notebook in a gaming laptop, and awesome that Alienware was able to do this with Cherry MX. So now you can get a mechanical keyboard with an Alienware computer, and bring it with you everywhere. Not have to pack an extra keyboard in there. Anyway, thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring us. Alienware.com/Travis. And be sure, by the way, if you do get that laptop, use Travis 10 off, and then you can help offset maybe a little bit of the upgrade cost of getting the nicer keyboard on there. Thank you to Alienware.
Nice, Travis.
Thanks.
Good
I
pitch.
appreciate it. Inero. I appreciate it. How's it going? I see Brian Kibler in the chat. What is
Miss Brian.
what's going on?
Brian Kibler.
Yeah. Brandon Kibler is in the chat right now. A big Yu-Gi-Oh professional from back in the day. Currently plays professional Elder Scroll or Gwent. He's a professional Gwent competitor at the moment.
Who is Kibler?
Brandon Kibler, I believe is his name, Mark. Buneli is here. Buneli, where are you calling from?
Springfield, Illinois.
Springfield,
Welcome.
Illinois. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about how 100 Thieves won't win this weekend against Dignitas, and that the expectations that were put on them at the beginning of like the spring split, not lock-in, were too high.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that take?
Yeah,
and sort of break it down?
yeah. So like, obviously they brought over like the main core from Golden Guardians, and I think people thought like their placement in summer was better than like what it actually was, because they still ended up 5th, 6th. And I think that, yes, some days like been like a really good top player for a while, but like I think they just thought that they would do better than they would, and like other teams like C9 and Team Liquid are obviously better. And TSM obviously had better players, so I think it was unrealistic to believe that they would finish top 3, and it kind of showed against C9 on Sunday.
Well, Mark, should we throw this one to Inero first, or do you want to hop in before he gives his sort of inside take?
I mean, we have 200 Thieves callers, I think. So, I mean, we can just answer this and see where it goes. I don't think the expectations were too high when they were placed on them. I mean, yes, they finished 5th, 6th in the playoffs, but they beat one of the teams that ended up winning, and then had a full best of 5 against them. So it's conceivable that they were a pretty good team. I would argue they seemed like a decent team. And then people believe that someday was going to be an upgrade over Hanser. Most of them, their own marketing, as far as I can recall, were pretty hyped. You know, no one was like, you know, this is a roster that's just hoping to make Worlds. You know, like they definitely felt like they were billing themselves as a title contender. I think that's how everyone talked about them. So I don't know how that'd be overhyped. People were putting them 3rd or 4th in their power rankings.
I mean, also from a cost standpoint. So, by the way, I'm working on getting be able to do the normal thing that I do every spring, where I do the efficiency of the team rosters or whatever. I'm trying to get the information, have some of it, but regardless, I think if you're 100 Thieves, you went out and you acquired this team from Golden Guardians. 4 of the 5 players. I mean, I guess some of them you didn't acquire because they were like who he was up on contract. But you bring them in, you add in Someday, who you've made this like really long commitment to, and I just can't imagine that this was their expectation for it. Like, this has got to look like failure in terms of what they were able to accomplish. Now, I don't know. Maybe they'll make some crazy lower bracket run and we'll all look silly, but I don't know. I think that 100T should be really disappointed in this result. And I think a lot of analysts did honestly believe that, like, here was a chance for a team that was not TSM, TL, or C9 to go pretty far. I mean, obviously we had the FlyQuest last time, but for another team to rise up, and it didn't didn't end up happening, and it felt like they crumbled a lot towards the end too. I don't know, this is more of a Mark or an Inero thing. Could comment on whether or not they just weren't able to keep up, and other teams got better than them. But like, they certainly didn't feel like they were looking too good by the end, and it's just kind of disappointing given that I think in the beginning they certainly seemed a lot stronger. I mean, they were in the second place position for a lot of the split, right? If I'm recalling. I mean, maybe they were tied with teams for that, but it's just kind of weird.
I think the expectation put on them that they'd be a title contender, if anyone said that, that would be kind of an over exaggeration and way too much hype on it. But I think trying to place that team as like a third, fourth place team in NA was not too far off base of what they could do with the roster they were trying to like have together there. I definitely think that we're going to be limited, and even if we were like on the team with them too, I feel like they would have been limited to a certain point to that, just because of like I just know the problems that the team has internally that aren't necessarily going to be the easiest to solve with the group that they put together on 100 Thieves. So I knew they were going to be capped a bit, but it was still kind of a disappointment.
That sounds like some tea.
But it's not really tea. Every team has like stuff internally that's like it's a big hurdle you have to get over of like what people do together, and the roster change up, like them going over there, like just basically just Sunday being changed out, wasn't really going to fix everything for them. But they still had like weaknesses to their play, and I think a lot of people figured out kind of how to approach it.
So I agree. Every team has tea in Inero, but not everyone can spill other teams' tea like you can spill.
I would never do that. I would never spill like any of that like kind of stuff. Like that's fucked up.
All right, you can get off.
Like how they want to play.
This is the only reason we had you.
I mean, I think the one thing you can't always talk about is just how they want to play. And I know like even though our games were fucking shitfests, when we approached them, like we had a very clear idea of what we wanted to do with it, where we went for like counter pick bot matchup. We know they really want to play through bot lane. Their team's like really heavily focused on that. And we knew that they did not play through mid at all. They did not do anything for their mid laner. This is when they were playing with Damonte. They did nothing with it. So we just played like a Lilia Tristana comp. Just fucking shit on mid lane. Like, he can't really play the game. He's not going to get bailed out from anything. And then the idea should be that we were playing like Sivir bottom into Kaiserel. It's like, cool, their bot lane cannot engage. They can't do anything. They can't force fights on this bottom. We have full mid control. You'll just shut down the team because they really relied on snowballing to get ahead through their bot lane being big. Which would enable Closers would be able to pop off, do his thing. And if that team can't do that, I think they're usually pretty screwed. And I don't think Someday fixes that. I think if you watch the games this weekend, they had like a 2v2 around top. I don't remember who was casting it, but like they're both doing literally the exact opposite of what each other are doing. Like Someday's running away while Closer's like trying to fight. And they maybe could have won the fight, but he just left. And then he starts like coming back in when he sees that he's fighting, and it's just like completely disjointed. It doesn't fix like a lot of the problems they have. And they could still be a good team. Like very easily be a good team. And I still think they're like at a good level compared to the rest. But I could see like on the caller's point, like them potentially losing to Dig. Purely because I think Dig is not afraid to fight you. Like their support jungle are, I think Aframa and Dardoch are completely in sync on what they want to do. They do not fucking hesitate. They just go in and fight. They go in and fight, and then their rookies follow up and fight with them. They're just ready to go all the time. And I think 100 Thieves support jungle is not the same. And they'll like back off when they get in these situations, and they'll hesitate and wait unless they have a big lead. And that's always been like the big struggle I've seen from them that teams have kind of punished. So I could see Dig winning. I hope they don't, personally. Like I hope 100 Thieves win because I want to see like my friends win. But like, I could see it potentially happening if they're not more consistent on that.
So I can sort of raise a little bit of speculation here around some of the issues that like. There's a narrative here that I think has gone unnoticed because people don't watch my 100T interviews, but there seems to be this implication or this thought from the community that Papa Smithy or Zix decided unilaterally to swap Damonte out and bring Ryoma in. And if you watch the interviews that I've done, I did one with Ryoma and I did one with Closer. Both of those interviews, it seemed pretty clear that this was not something where like Zix or Papa Smithy were like, we're going to make this decision. this seems like something that the other players wanted. And like Ryoma, I believe lives with FBI, and they're really good friends. I think Spawn has talked about this previously on the show. Like I do not. My impression from the outside, and people can go watch these interviews and draw their own conclusions, right? I'm not using any kind of like secret information here, but my impression has been that at least some of the players did not want to continue to play with Damonte, and they chose to bring Ryoma instead.
They chose to bring in their friends and roommates because of nepotism.
Yeah, I don't know if
which
it's nepotism.
just seems to breed within the
To be clear, I am not suggesting that, but I am suggesting that like clearly. I am suggesting that it appears as though there was not a great relationship with Damonte, and there was a better relationship with Ryoma, and the team decided that they wanted to play with Ryoma instead of Damonte. Again, people can go look at my interviews and draw their own conclusions around the questions that I ask, but I don't think that it is a situation where like Papa Smithy and Zix unilaterally decided this, and I think the only reason that they are not. Like that these two have just taken the brunt of this stuff is because they don't want to like they'd rather take the heat for a decision that was made by the team.
Maybe. I mean, that is kind of your job as coach and manager, no matter what. Like you will take the heat. It's kind of what you do. Like you should. If you don't do that, like you're a piece of shit overall. I don't know internally. I know they were like good friends, but Closer was a big part of like trying to get Damonte on board in the first place, between spring and summer. But it's always hard to say like how that stuff shifts.
So it sounds like Closer has a history of not enjoying the mid laner that he's playing with, because it sounded like you're saying last year between spring and summer he was trying to replace his previous. It's
always the mid laner.
I don't know, man. I'm saying like I've been away from them for a while, so I don't really know. But
yeah, and I'm not trying to like put you in a spot where you have to like
no clue.
Yeah, I'm just saying like it. I hope that people look more broadly to this stuff rather than just being like, wow, Papa Smithy, OCE nepotism is putting Ryoma in. I actually think it's perhaps
I think I could definitely say about like how those guys are internally. If they didn't want that change, they would not take that very easily. If they didn't want to play with Ryoma, they would probably let everyone know they didn't want to play with Ryoma. So they probably wanted to play with him. Like they would definitely be pissed about it. They didn't want to.
I feel like there's very rarely, and there are some instances, but usually it's not like a player decides, or a coaching staff decides by themselves, like, man, F this player, we think this backup's better, and it's not usually like consulted with the players, and you heavily weigh their input and stuff like that when you're making swaps and substitutions and whatnot. I think it's funny, Papa Smithy showed up in chat, Fudge showed up in chat as soon as you start talking about
OCE player, yeah.
Yeah, Raz had a good way of putting it. It's Nep-Oshtism. It was pretty good.
Nep-Oshtism. What I think one thing that was lost in all of this also was Spawn. Like, Spawn is also an OCE coach. Are we suggesting that OCE coaches are inferior and TL is...
I'm just waiting till we have the full Osh team. Papa should hire Inero with his beautiful Australian accent.
Not even Australian, man.
Yeah, dude, you have the
I'm from redneck North Carolina.
Dude, you have such a thick Australian accent. It went back around to sounding American. Yeah. You went around the globe a full time. It's just such a thick accent.
No, but you could do that. You could do GM Papa Smithy, manager Fasfy, coach. Nice. You pull together maybe Spawn or somebody's head coach or whatever. And you bring in those other.
We don't have a jungler yet. That's one thing we're missing in the scene. I think.
Fire. You have Fudge, Fire.
Yeah.
Ryoma, Harry, Lost King, Ayla. What's it called? Isles. You get a full O's team.
Yeah, you could bring Raze and Destiny over. It's pretty easy. You just need Sharon and you're good to go. Or Babby, yeah.
Yeah, Babbitt and TSMA.
Yeah. There you go.
Anyways, on to the caller point again. I think it's fair to say that this is probably below 100 Thieves' aspirations when they put the roster together. Even if it's not, it's like Inero said, a title contender that's scrapping up there with C9 or TL. At the very least, I think the way the split has gone feels worse than
And that's a really good point, by the way. Like, Caller, I know you were saying that suggesting that 100T should have been third is a mistake, but like C9, TL, and TSM do not look unbeatable. Like, these teams were one or two games off from like what, 5th and 6th place. Like, it's not like they went and wrecked each other or wrecked everybody and then they were just trading wins with each other. Like, these teams have looked fairly vulnerable, and we've seen a lot of teams take games off of them. So I don't know. I have a hard time feeling as though 100T landed where I think they should have reasonably. Buneli.
Just around 4th, pretty much.
Buneli.
That's really it.
We'll have to see. It could be 5th, 6th, depending on if Dig team fights their way to glory.
Anything you disagree with us on here, Buneli?
No, not really. I just thought that like I don't know. I just felt like they would do better. I thought they would get second, like at the start of the split, but then I realized like how they were like kind of performing towards the end. I think like there's kind of like a coaching issue, like how they're playing, like with drafting and stuff. So I thought that was like a problem they were facing throughout the last like half of the split, I would say.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how things go in their lower bracket run. Maybe they'll surprise. Is there anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, I want to shout out Double Lift, Medios, and Sneaky for their co-streams. They've been really enjoyable, and I've like really enjoyed watching them. And it's kind of different from like the other co-streamers, and they're actually like fun and like don't flame all the time.
Well, I appreciate that. I saw that Double Lift had. I saw Double Lift had 50K viewers this weekend. Riot broadcast in shambles. Why even want? I think they should get rid of the analyst desk. People are just watching co-streams now anyway.
Then I can co-stream myself and just earn money that way.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like that's going to happen long term. Do you not get that vibe? I get the vibe that we're going to start using co-stream as like part of the actual stream.
I would say yes and no. I think we have not seen the height of co-stream integration. I and Travis have talked about like I think it'd be great if like during ad breaks or like lulls in the game or like pauses, fuck it, kick it over to a co-stream. I'd love to do that.
You know, like NBA has like Shaq and those other guys. They're just like talking about random shit like after the game, just kind of like making fun of stuff. Because obviously, like they all played the game, so they know it more in depth. I feel like it's going to turn into that.
I mean, I'm really curious. You could see like it's not that crazy to imagine a world where after COVID is over, TSM uses like some sort of studio space in their office to do like a fairly professional broadcast.
Nope. Get me out. Stop that right now. The whole point of co-streams is that they're low-key and fun, and they're not high professional. You have the main broadcast as the professional one. Why would you put them in a room with a microphone and two people sitting at a desk when we already have
you can have
that?
your own sponsors on these co-streams.
You can do that already, can't you?
Yeah, but I will tell you that a brand is going to be way more interested in like let's say it's a TSM brand or something.
Who cares
like that.
about the viewers? The brand will be much happier if they were sitting
okay,
not
I'm
in
just
their
telling
PJs.
you. I'm just telling you, money moves a lot. And if you are TSM and you can guarantee like 25 to 50,000 viewers on a stream every weekend, and you can say, "Hey, Grubhub, like we will stick this all over. We'll stick your logos all over the backdrop of this thing," and then you go to Double Lift, Sneaky, and Medios and say, "We'll cut you guys all in," and every time you do a co-stream or something like that, you'll make like 10 grand or something. I'm just saying I could see this stuff. We're going off topic.
No, here's what I'll tell you. The main broadcast will probably always have a pretty similar form to what it is now, because I think the co-streamers do enjoy having the broadcast and being able to listen to casters and even have the analyst desk and like all the stuff kind of filling in at different points and things to watch. And I think I'm excited to see more co-stream integration and how it evolves. And I would not be surprised if people are doing their own like little side streams the same way you have like multilingual broadcasts and all this different stuff. There's no reason you can't have like the TSM stream and whatnot, as much as I was memeing about the other things I was saying.
People in Twitch chat are like, Travis only cares about money. No.
That's
Team owners care about money. You noobs.
Travis doesn't care about money at all.
No, absolutely not.
He doesn't talk about scam trains left and right, for sure.
Yeah.
Mark, are we done now? Can we?
I don't know. You tell me. Caller's still in here awkwardly.
I know. I'm just wondering if I can make my point and move on.
I thought
You're the
had.
host of the show, Travis.
I have to pay you,
We're
Mark.
waiting for you to
I have
move
to
on.
pay you. Yes, I care about generating revenue so that I could compensate you and Tim and Broden and all these people. Okay, Buneli, thanks so much for the call. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you, guys.
Have a
How
good
you
one.
doing?
You too.
All right. Off Mark goes. Speaking of subs, thank you to Lord Goof. It's Gilchrist for the 5 tier 1 subs. D9 TV for the next 5. Penty for the sub, the prime. Pluto7443 for 37 months. And Hershey Crisp for 4 months. All right. How are we doing in Twitch chat, guys? Travis Gafford is a cute soul. The problem is Travis Corporations. True. Travis Gafford Industries is what drives me to really figure this stuff out. When are you coming back home, Inero?
28th. Back home on the 28th.
Okay. So you're only out there for about a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gone for too long.
There we go.
EO120 is here. EO, where are you calling from?
Out in Salt Lake.
Salt Lake
Utah.
City.
Oh, wow, you're right next to me, man.
Microphone, too.
Oh, what's up? What's up?
I'm in
And
Salt
there-
Lake City right now.
Inero and EO hanging out. You know
My
who
name's
else lives in
Mormonism.
Salt Lake City?
Brandon Sanderson.
Brian
Yes,
McClellan.
yes, BYU, my man.
Yeah.
He has that great creative writing lecture series.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about on the show, EO?
So I wanted to echo over LS's concerns from that Facecheck episode where the "I will dominate" statement came from. LS had a great concern, and I share it as well as we're trying to figure out what we want to do with the league and with rookie talent from the amateur scene or the collegiate scene. So I kind of wanted to ask Inero, do you believe LS's concerns are justified for players like Niles coming
Well,
to
wait,
the
hang on,
scene
sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to
Not
frame
all of
this
us
out.
have watched the Facecheck episode.
Yeah, okay,
that
okay.
specific part. So can you elaborate what this is?
So there are certain players' careers where they get fast-tracked too quickly to the pro scene, and not all of them end up like, say, LeBron, who jumped from like high school to the NBA and is now a legend. That's not like even reasonable or normal for anyone. So Niles is not looking like the next Bjergsen of top lane or anything like that. It's LS was trying to elicit this concern that with how bad Golden Guardians has done so far in the season, a lot of players, a lot of young, new rookie players who have not been fully developed into this pro level and are having, just really bad splits on account of just how new they are, how much they need to learn. Inero, do you believe Niles' career could be over after this split, after this year? And I know you didn't. I don't know how much control you had over the roster. I don't imagine it was much, considering the financial elements. But the concern is, is this process even healthy for rookies?
Yeah, so it's an understandable concern. Like, I totally get where that's coming from, because a lot of the time what happens is these guys get brought in, and if you don't look good your first split, like, you get just fucking kicked. You get kicked and forgotten about, and that's just like kept with you your entire career. So I can completely understand where that's coming from. Like, totally. I think overall it's a rough spot to be into, like coming in and having all this pressure and having all these things that you have to get better at and learn. And I know Niles hasn't like perfected everything at all yet. Like, he's improving slowly, but it's not necessarily showing on stage. Like, hell, I mean, our last game, we ran into the same things that we had pop up at the start of the year, where it's like 2 deaths, like 4 minutes into the game. But like, he has gotten better, and I think the most important part with it, to making sure these people's careers aren't ruined, is just being clear about the fact that, like, he came in with no experience. and he took a risk on himself and a chance on himself, and he was given that opportunity. And I'm not kicking him just because he did poorly from it. And I told him that coming in, that as long as you're trying and getting better at it, I'm not just going to kick you out the door immediately. And if I did that, that would just be fucked by me. If I just like kicked him immediately, like, oh, you're just playing awful, then it's like, what was I doing? Like, I'm an idiot for doing this in the first place, you know? Like, I've just ruined you for no reason. But as long as he's getting better through the split, then I'm happy overall with this happening. As long as we're not planning to just like offload him like after the year, just like, yeah, you're gone. This wasn't good. Sorry. At least like trying to build him up no matter what. Like our whole goal coming in initially was like bringing him in for academy. And that's what we like talked to these guys about too. And turned into LCS for him. Made sure he was okay with like taking that risk for himself. And that, yeah, I'm gonna give you the chance to just fail on stage. If you want to take that risk with us and go, like, I'll give you the chance to fail. But I can understand where the concern's coming from. I totally get it. I don't really know like what else more to say other than that. You know, we just have to see like how it goes in summer. Whether like I did my job well as a coach and helped him get better with it. Because I've seen it in practice. I've seen it in practice constantly. Like he's getting better. He's recognizing patterns a lot better. He's getting more consistent about what he's doing. All the guys are getting more consistent about what they're doing. We just fucking sucked on stage. Like really, really hard on stage. Like weird. And like people hate to hear that. Like, oh, scrims are going well, you know? Like they hate to hear it. But like we've sucked with fucking confidence on stage. And honestly, I kind of expected that would happen. I was just hoping we'd be able to force more with like the vocal voices in our team. But ultimately, like when I watch the team and like I get to hear everything internal, the most vocal people on our team are like Niles and Ablaze Olive, who are rookies. I know Olive's been around for a long time now, so he's got a lot less stress on himself. But Niles has been able to stay vocal despite all of this, and is a big part of the fact we've been able to be in like any sort of winning position in a lot of games because he's trying to carry through that. So at least all I hope from it is that he's getting a good experience from it. And if it goes bad for him on the year, like I hope people will be able to look and just say like that's a fault of the coaches at Golden Guardians, and that's all I would want from them. Because I'm at least giving this time to him and making sure that he's got that ability to just keep pushing himself and get better.
On like how the year has gone so far, obviously like you're talking about struggles on stage, but with how the roster was constructed, and like you said, hey, you're going to have an opportunity to come and learn, and you're probably going to fail on stage. Are you good like taking that risk and kind of all agreeing to take that risk together? Where in this project, if you want to call it that, like would you say you feel like the team is at? Because everyone, all the analysts, pundits and stuff said, all right, 10th place team right here. You got 3 wins. A lot of the losses looked pretty bad. You know, like how like is this below? It's like, you know, how it's like a weird question to ask. Like, because if you're expected to get 10th, you know, this is expectation. But is it below expectation for the stage development versus scrim development, or do you think it's like going according to what you thought it would, or is it better or worse? Like all that kind of stuff.
I mean, there's some parts where it's below, for sure. Like I definitely had some higher expectations on things that we'd be able to do as a team based off of like how we were looking when we were doing trials and initially through scrims at the beginning of the year, where we had a lot more confidence in like where this was headed. But I think we're hitting like the points we want to improve on as a team, especially for like our young guys that are here, like Iconic, Niles. Those guys have been doing really well with the things that they've had to learn because they've had to catch up on so much. So obviously like only having 3 wins from this sucks. We were in a good position and like a good few of the games. Like I've always obviously gone back and looked like what our consistent problems were and where we were at in terms of actually being able to win other games. And like we were in decent spots through them, just lacking a lot of shit macro wise and a lot of shit just fundamentally of what to do in the game. And it takes time, but I think we're about where I kind of would expect to be these guys. But obviously like I was hoping for way better with us. So I was more so disappointed in myself to not be able to pull that out from everyone and keep pushing them along with it.
I think one thing I would say is like there is a opinion that I understand where it comes from because we have seen this before, but I think the assumption that a player can have a terrible experience in the LCS or perform terribly and then not recover is not proven out 100% of the time. So Neo is a good example of this, right? Like he played under what Asta, I believe was his handle on Optic. Obviously a shorter period of time, but go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say even better example on the same team is oh my gosh, Fake God and Saligo. There we go. Asta was okay in his like Immortals games. Saligo got trashed repeatedly mid lane, got benched. They benched someday to put Fake God in so that they could bring back Ryu, was it? And then Fake God had a pretty rough go of things in the top lane, even though they won more. And now they're both on Dignitas and doing much better. So like you can get slammed for a split or so and still improve and get better and turn it around.
Yeah. I mean, I think the question of, and I'm not trying to say that the question of like, should Niles have started an academy, like that, I think that's a fair question or a fair question, and like, Inero's not in the position.
Academy, it would be smoother for him.
Right.
Of course, like 100%, it would be smoother for him. That's just how it works. Like, you get time to get used to things and learn a lot more. Because in collegiate, like, you're not gonna catch up on a lot of that stuff. But unfortunately, in academy, you're gonna miss out on a lot of shit too. Because academy's also pretty rough.
Yeah. Mark, let me ask you this, because if I ask Inero it, it's kind of an awkward question for him. But you know, one thing I've thought about with this is like, okay, if you're Golden Guardians, you have this small budget. It's interesting because I'm like, who are they supposed to run with that small budget? Especially if you know that you're not going to Worlds this year, essentially. No offense, Inero. You know, like I
offended Travis.
I think that there is it's like interesting because I think a lot of fans would be like, oh, well, you should run like Hanser or somebody like that. But I don't think it's that absurd to suggest like running rookie players is a bad idea. I don't know. I'm curious what you think of this, Mark.
I think, I mean, I was vocal about this even before, you know, as soon as relegations were removed. I was like, teams should be realistic about like, hey, 7th place roster, you're not fucking good enough with your lineup of veterans to make Worlds, and there's no relegation anymore. So what are you doing? You know, like what's your vision with this roster? There was a number of teams in 2018 and 19 that I had the same feeling on. It's like I'm much happier to see teams, and even CLG this split this year got criticism for that kind of approach, where it's like, okay, you kind of shelled out for a fair amount of veterans, but they don't seem to have the firepower to really go toe-to-toe with the world's bound teams that we were predicting. So, you know, what is the goal here? And that's why I like teams like Dignitas, Golden Guardians,
Immortals.
whatnot, Immortals, yeah, doing this kind of approach. I think Golden Guardians had to go even more Moneyball in some sense. Like, I don't know what everyone's financial situation is, but it's at least public facing. It seems like they had the toughest go of things. And so if you're looking at like hot young talent that I'm going to take a shot on, you know, I'm sure Palafox commanded a bigger salary than
you got buyouts, bro.
Yeah, and buyouts and stuff. I don't know exactly.
You got buyouts on everyone in academy. So
right. So like, yeah, I don't know what their option
first.
Yeah. So I don't know what the exact situation was and who they could have exactly grabbed. So I don't hate the idea of going for rookies with a team that knows that like they don't have the salaries to compete necessarily, and they had to sell off their entire. It's not even like they had pieces sitting there. You know, like this whole roster got sold off to 100 Thieves, right? So it's not even like, well, I have a pretty good young guy developing currently. Like you had to rebuild from scratch too.
Yeah.
For me at least, like I'm happy with like our guys how they did this year because it's fucking tough for them. Obviously we didn't perform, but I'm happy with them because they took a risk on themselves. Like even just accepting the offer, knowing it, because like I tried to be as upfront as possible about what it was going to be for everyone joining. Like it's going to be like rough for you. It's not going to just magically work at the start. So you have to be ready to like take a lot of criticism. You're going to have to take a lot of like blunt criticism from us to get better on. The community's obviously going to rail you, and you have to be ready for that. And like obviously I'm going to try to help you with that, but you have to be ready. And they took it in stride. Like our team environment has remained really fucking positive with our group. Like everyone is making improvements. Like there's still that pressure that we just suck out on stage, and I could have done a lot more to help facilitate that too. I think I took it like a little too easy in terms of trying not to have too much internal pressure in practice, where I could have pushed like way harder to try to create that pressure in practice more so that everyone is used to it. And I think like I failed as a coach on that end. And I tried to adapt to too many things away from our strengths to try and work on just weaknesses too much rather than trying to really, really push on what we were already strong at. And that part failed on my end, and I could have done way better on it. But I'm really happy with what our guys have done. Then I'm just going to keep pushing on it in the direction where I've learned a lot about how they work as a group and where we can make changes and work on that and push it even further. And yeah, I just want to show it for summer. And I'm just happy with them. I'm happy with how they've done because it's a fucking hard spot to be in. And us being last that's just a failure on me. That's just it.
Well, EO, you've made Inero. He looks like he's on the verge of tears right now, talking about his own failure. Are you happy with yourself, EO?
No, man.
Totally fine, bro.
No. I'm watching
He's
the
just got
delay too on
glaucoma.
this. I'm watching delay video on this, and Inero, if you are like getting misty-eyed, like I just, it's.
Oh no, don't worry, man. I'm not. I'm hard on myself. Like before any of this, so like.
Oh no, I'm not. Well, I appreciate people that get misty-eyed about taking great passion in what they care about and the people that they care about. So like, if you were getting misty-eyed, then that's great. If you're not, then well, I guess you're.
Then you're
I
a
guess you don't
monster.
really care about your
It's
job.
out of my system already, boss. Don't worry. I had my tears through the split.
And
at
Nero
the
already
end,
punched
I'm
a
good.
bunch of holes in walls. He's over it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, behind the camera, there's just 50 holes in this wall.
What do you think that
Pure anger.
the waves and sunset is covering? It's a giant hole in the wall behind him.
Yeah, that's why it's just
One-
hanging there.
Yeah.
One big Riot
Covering it up.
brand logo behind that.
Yeah.
EO, anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, naturally. Want to go ahead and shout out our two quintessentials for Travis Gafford Industries with Game Fuel and Alienware. I also want to give a shout out to my boy Sean Britton, the host of Rift of Review, as well as everything else he has with Vega and Magi. They do a lot of their own small time work. But thanks for having me on. Inero, thank you for your time. I really appreciated getting your perspective on how you were treating your guys and really helping them survive this gauntlet of an introduction to pro scene. It's been wonderful.
Oh man, I appreciate the take.
Have a good one. All right. We're in the final minute of a scam train, a level 3 scam train. As Marcus pointed out, I'm incapable of not pointing that out. So if we get any more subs, that would be helpful to keep that thing running. That scam train currently powered by Travis Gafford gifting a sub to Ovely May, D9 who gifted 5 subs, Kelby who gifted a sub to Didgery Drew 94.
D9 is popping off with the subs. He's been
What's
gifting
that?
a lot.
Who?
D9 has been
Oh
gifting
yes,
a lot
D9,
of subs.
D9
this
has
whole time.
been every now and then somebody comes along who just like drops a ton of subs on the channel for like the course of
Got
like
my
a month or
stimmy
two.
check. Let's drop some subs.
Yeah. 5 foot from the moon is here. Where are you calling from?
Calling from San Francisco.
San Francisco. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I wanted to talk about 100 Thieves again. I think 100 Thieves with Ryoma will always be a worse version of the top 3 teams and will lose to Dignitas. With Damonte, they can embrace the roaming mid style and crack the top 3. If the 100 Thieves wants to go to Worlds, they should double down on Damonte and his playstyle.
All right, here we go. So Kelsey, I don't know if she's still in the chat, but before she had said she wanted to see a Ryoma and Damonte is not the problem take. And instead, we're going to get the opposite, which is Damonte and Ryoma.
Ryoma is the problem.
Yeah. Okay, so why do you think that this is the case?
So Ryoma's like plays mages and control mages. Every mid laner in the top 3 teams is a better version of that, and they have other players that are better in each role. And I wanted to give a quick rundown of how how 100 Thieves did with both Ryoma and Damonte in the regular season, if that's all right.
Sure, go for it.
So with Ryoma, they went 3-3. They lost to all the top 3 teams, and then they won against IMC, Golden Guardians, and FlyQuest. With Damonte, they went 8-4, and they lost to C9 twice, to TSM and Golden Guardians. But Golden Guardians is not fair because Inero's there, and he's the Kryptonite, so he kind of has some inside information.
We almost
and I
lost
think-
that game, man. But yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
And yet
Yeah,
you were
so-
able to pull it off with a roster that was much cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So continue.
and I don't think Damonte is pigeonholed as much as people say he is. People say if you ban Twisted and Galio, then he doesn't have any other picks. But there's also Nocturne. Recently, we've seen Ari. We've seen good Silas play. And reminiscent of his Kiana, you can pull out a Talon or use a set to just nullify a lane. So if you're playing against something like Perkz, you just like nullify lane and don't let him do anything.
All right.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead, Inero. Kick us
I
off.
think I think the result would have likely been fairly similar no matter what. Unfortunately, obviously, like Damonte has these like other picks that he plays, but what I really think Damonte provided for the team wasn't necessarily always in game. Like he's very good in terms of just the intangibles for like a sports and competitive team. But even with him on the team, like even though I think you said they were 8-4 or whatever, they could have like easily had just 4 of those wins. Like they were in so many situations. I think like when it was 2019 or what is it 2020 summer, it was like we would have like big gold leads and throw them and we would lose it. And I think at the start of the split, it was the opposite where they would be behind and they would just end up winning the game instead. So like they could have easily been in like the same spot where their record doesn't look that great with Damonte either. I don't think it changes too much. I think the biggest strength that Damonte had with like playing those picks and why those picks worked for that team was just because it had another person willing to like start fights for them and to like make something happen with them. Because I think generally this team like really really heavily relied on, at least while like I worked with them, closer being an engaged source to start things for them or to like make plays, just actually make something happen on the map. Because he was the one who would call it. Like he's the big caller on the team. He's the big initiator. He's the person who has the killer instinct on the team. Tanner being able to do it, like he wouldn't necessarily make the greatest plays. Like he would do some int shit all the time too. But like he would be willing to actually get something going and like force it. He was like trying to find a play to make. He was trying to like push and kill the people. Closer, I think, is the next biggest person alongside FBI that does that. And unfortunately, like right now, like what they're playing isn't necessarily enabling it too much. I think with like Olaf can kind of work in like good situations. I know closer really always like playing Olaf. But if they're playing engaged champions, like I think the meta where we did the best in 2020 summer was when it was like set Volibear jungle meta, just because closer could be the person who pulled the trigger and win. But he was a good in Italy, but we couldn't win because he wasn't on engage. Like that was our problem almost every time. It was he didn't have engage, so we would lose. It would feel really hard because no one else could make the call and punish when they needed to. There was too much hesitation. So I think that's what they're lacking. And I don't think Ryoma or Damonte really changes that too much. So
Inero,
that's
I'm
my,
curious. Do you
take
think,
on it.
like, okay, so maybe Damonte or Ryoma don't actually have that much of an impact on whether or not they win or lose these games, but which one should they play with?
I don't know. Whichever one they feel like closer to as a team, whoever they feel better with as a team. Like if you get more along with people, it's a lot easier to learn what you need to do and feel comfortable and like trust each other. Because a lot of what leads to hesitation is just a lack of trust. It's either a lack of understanding of what to do, so you're not sure and you doubt yourself, or you're not sure if your teammate will back you up, so you don't really want to go. So whoever they feel most comfortable with, they should play with. So if it's Ryoma, then like shit, man. I guess it's just Ryoma who you should play with. But it's not going to be a solution to their issues, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it is what it is.
I largely agree with that. I mean, this is something that I've talked about, I think, a couple of times. Just like by the time they subbed Ryoma in, Damonte wasn't even playing, TF and Galio that much anymore. There were games where it was left up and they didn't play it. They were still playing mostly standard control mages. And they were having their issues of the failed dives, the lack of proactivity. I mean, they were one of the least active teams in the early game at generating kills. I mean, they secured objectives and whatnot and used their bot lane pressure to stack dragons a lot of times. That's how they won some of those games that they probably should have lost. Was it'd be soul point, the other team would biff the soul point despite being up in gold, and then they won those and stuff like that. So to Inero's point, yeah, they were 8-4 with Damonte, but they easily could have lost a lot of those games, like the CLG one. They did end up losing. I think both CLG ones. I think they played 2. I could be wrong. And then the Golden Guardians one, they did lose. There were a number of games where they were really struggling. And I think if you just go by record, you go, oh, they're 8-4, they're super strong. But I think they also recognize that, like, no, we are struggling, which is why you saw some of these changes come in despite the positive record. And the 6-6, or excuse me, the 3-3 that happened after the swap was more indicative of the problems that they were already having than Ryoma came in and tanked this team split or anything like that. And I think, Travis asked the question, which one would you rather have? You can have that debate, but like the differences in their play is not as big as the difference in the fall off of the rest of the team from the lock-in tournament, if that makes sense. What I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. Like what happened in lock-in, it's like, well, top 3 in every position, except arguably mid, you could say maybe, but even then Damonte was playing super well. And then it's like, well, nothing is working anymore. And it's not just the mid lane that stopped working.
Moon,
I
what
like
do
that.
you?
Is that I really think the only big thing that Damonte provided like different that could help are intangibles outside of the game, and he didn't really hesitate to force a play, whether it was good or bad. He would just
Yeah.
kind of make it happen, and that team lacks it. I think outside of closer and FBI.
Yeah, I think Emily Rand was the first person I saw. I heard say mood maker a lot when she was talking about sword art, but I think that probably applies to Damonte, at least like looking at player cams and shit. I'm not on that team, but he did seem to bring a good amount of energy and like attitude, which sometimes teams lack. They just look dead inside when they play. I've been on teams where that's the mood. You get into the VOD review after the game and everyone's just staring at the floor and wants to get the fuck out of there.
I mean, just I think a big thing that can show it is like watch their first game versus C9 and watch the first dragon. It's like the dragon that happens like a lot later, and like they have full control, and they just kind of let C9 walk through the choke, and then they walk through the choke, like they walk into their own choke, like 100 backs up into their own, and just dies. Like they could have been holding that, like Ryoma could be stepping up and just holding the ball there, trying to like at least keep them zoned off. They could be trying to force it first, knowing that they're going to walk in and fight it, but they kind of just fall over and die. And that's what that team's missing. Like they're good fucking players, but it's missing that piece to just go and punish. And that's why like C9 and TL and these teams are so fucking good. I don't think they hesitate at all. They know what they want to do, and I think they trust each other to back each other up. And yeah, the 100 Thieves group doesn't necessarily have that together right now. I don't think Damonte or Ryoma changes that too much, unfortunately.
The 100 team mid lane situation is a red herring. Fans all want to just say it's. Oh, Mark, you're muted. Mark, you're very passionately talking, and you're muted.
Passionately muted.
No, I was. Fuck me. Anyways, I was saying that I actually said the same thing to myself today. I was like, man, this Damonte Ryoma thing is such a red herring, and it's like fun to talk about, but like, no, there's so many other things. Red herring was my exact talking to myself words. I'm glad you said it, Travis. Respect restored.
Oh, wow. I feel like I lose and gain it so frequently with you. It's a roller coaster. You really keep me.
It's a very fluid
guessing.
commodity.
Yeah. Well, Moon. Sounds like these guys don't give a shit who they play. Sorry to say.
I mean, they might be doing a lot better with Ryoma in practice. I don't think we've scrimmed them since they did the change.
That was.
And it might be like, because he could also just be having hesitation on stage from just like pressure. But I don't know if he's a big voice. I don't know much about Ryoma personally. I feel like changes that because he just may like struggle to do it on stage because I know that can happen sometimes. Pressure.
Moon.
Yeah, I'm still here. I mean, I would have loved to see Karthus knock out of 100 Thieves with Damonte. That would have been really awesome. But yeah, it's more of a team issue than
I mean,
a player.
Even to that point too, like I don't know. I doubt Zix has like 100% draft control. Maybe he does. But you look at FPX and Doinby's playing Renekton mid, Rumble mid. I think he played the Nocturne as well. He's playing these champs that are very much Doinby champs, and everyone always uses him as the shining example of the mid laner who says fuck the meta and does what works for him. Why Damonte did not attempt that and instead start playing the control mages, we don't know. Like that might be Damonte saying, no, I think this is the right way to play the game. And like, I'm not saying this is Damonte, but I know players who don't want to like not play the meta because it's viewed as a weakness, and they'd rather play the meta things not as well because they think they play them fine. And it's I think a lot of time there's a pushback on like this idea that no, go play the off meta thing. That's your play style. And at least in North America, it feels like there's not many people who actually want to do that.
I know. I know Damonte did want to play like control mage stuff because when he was on our team, like he really wanted to like show he could do that and force that as a team. And I kind of forced the opposite. I made sure we were still trying to play the same shit we were doing, but it was just kind of for the same reason we've already hit on. We kind of like relied on him being on kind of those picks to get fights started for us, make plays happen, and call shit.
Yeah, I mean, like the meta was moving towards control mage. Ori, Azir, I think, and Syndra were probably 1, 2, 3 in most games played this split. Highest presence, at least, I would bet. So, like, to that point, like, a lot of mid laners don't want to, and not mid laners, I should say, a lot of players don't want to go, no, I'm not going to play the meta stuff. I'm not great at it, or my team doesn't need, like, you know, it's a very contentious point when you get into those situations. So, who knows, you know? And then if you're doing that, then, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily just blame coaches if that's happening, because I don't know what's happening.
Moon, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Yeah, shout out to Game Fuel. I was able to order some Game Fuel to San Francisco. Wasn't able to before, so that's nice.
Yeah, now
and
shipping
also,
to California.
Also, shout out to Raz. He's back on the broadcast, and he brings so much great energy. I love his Zordon reference, being in the studio, which is this giant screen. And I also love how animated he gets during arguments. He's like turning his face to the side as if he's actually on a desk. But, you know, he's doing a video call, so it's like some nice awareness to see from a caster like that.
Yeah, I actually, it's a great call out on both those. Thank you for shouting at both of them. I didn't really mention this. I should have, but it felt so good to have Raz on the desk. I think much like when he's on a Hotline League, he forces energy out of people. Like, you know, I love Mark and Emily and other folks, but like tend to be kind of chill in their presentation sometimes, you know. And then Raz comes in like a wrecking ball and is like, "What? Mark, you're crazy. You're crazy." And then Mark rises to the challenge, and I think it adds a lot of energy. It's really good. Having that also with the studio space, I think, and having Dash be able to walk around in a giant room that makes him look small, unfortunately, I think was also really great. So it's a good call out. So.
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks,
the take, bro.
Have a good one. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll just shout out Game Fuel. We're going to talk about Game Fuel right now. Their logo's up in the rotation. So one thing I mentioned previously was GameFuel.com. Mountain Dew Game Fuel, by the way, is what we're talking about. You can now ship to California from there, which is great news because for a while I think they were not. But you can use Travis to save 5% off your order of Game Fuel. And now they have unlocked the Victory Pass rewards. So previously they only had levels 1 through 5 unlocked. And if you don't remember what Victory Pass is, or maybe you haven't heard me mention this before as part of the sponsorship they have for the show, they have something that's very similar to a battle pass. If you've ever done anything like this in League or Fortnite or whatever games you play, where you can actually level up your Victory Pass as you're purchasing through the website and climb these higher levels. They now have unlocked the rest of the rewards for levels 6 through 20. And you have about, I think it's, oh man, I forgot when it expires. I'm looking for it right now. I'm going to have to get back to you folks. But you have quite some time to start leveling up your Victory Pass. They've got all sorts of cool stuff on there, including a hat and some Twitch bits and a pin pack and a shirt and all sorts of cool stuff that you can get by leveling this thing up. So go check it out. Gamefuel.com. You can use Travis to save 5% off your order. I'm going to actually do !Gamefuel in the chat so that people in the Twitch chat can see the link that you can use. If it is not available in your area, or when you go there you want a certain flavor and it's not showing up, I also have in the Twitch chat, but also in the link in the description of this YouTube video if you're watching on YouTube, an Amazon link, which actually does help me if you purchase through there. So obviously, unfortunately, you can't get access to like the 5% off or the Victory Pass rewards if you're doing it. But if you're really craving it or you want to try it, and unfortunately there are a couple places still that they don't ship, you can use that Amazon link. And if you do, again, it's really helpful because it just allows us to make sure we can report that to them and say, like, hey, we helped sell this piece of product for you. So thank you so much to GameFuel for their support of the show. It's been awesome to have them be a sponsor for us. I continue to love their product. And Mark continues to tear through cases of it. Mark, did you get the new shipment yet? Did it show up?
Yeah, we talked about it. Remember I said that the same day that happened, I realized I had...
Yeah, you had some of the previous ones. So now you're stocked up for a while, which is good.
Yeah,
so,
I'm Gucci.
Yeah. Either way, thank you so much to GameFuel for their support of the show. We're next up for the next caller. Thank you to Kyle0808 for the 38 months at tier 2. D9 TV gifted a sub to Mark. Urwat subbed for a month. Appreciate it. Laja 25. Calculus. Vicarious. Squeezy Octo. And then D9 TV gifted a sub to Jules. So thank you to everybody. Oh, and Kyle0808 gifted another sub. He's gifted 901 subs in the channel. My God. I think he's definitely in the lead by quite a bit.
Hello.
Hello, Mesh. Where are you calling from?
Hi. Calling from Bellevue.
Sorry, I'm turning you up to you're kind of a little muffled.
Yeah.
Where are you calling from?
Bellevue, Washington.
Bellevue, Washington. Okay, I have you on max, so I don't know if you can get a little closer to your microphone. But what do you want to talk about on the show?
My topic was basically Fudge showed that he pretty much lived up to his words. In your interview, he mentioned that he was going to show up better in best of fives because of his versatility and champ pool depths. I think he showed that this weekend against 100 Thieves. He played 3 different champs. He had different styles. And he had he had good game impact on all of them. Flanks on Renekton when he needed to. He was.
You're getting quieter as you keep talking. Sorry.
Are you hovering backwards? Is it?
Yeah.
Or you want to
slowly walking away from the microphone as you talk it. So you said he showed a good deal of depth and champion and play styles across those 3 games. Mesh.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. And he blind picked in games 1 and 2, so that was also pretty impressive, I think.
I thought. I mean,
so you're
the way
referencing,
that
I think, the interview in which he said Alfari is the only better top laner than him. Mesh.
Yeah, I think it was in that interview, right?
I think
that was where he
so.
said that. Yeah.
I believe so, because I challenged him on that, and he said he feels like, or he thought he would show it in these best of fives. By the way, shout out. I know Mark's going to say something, but shout out to Fudge for getting me a bunch of dislikes on my video. I used the headline, which was his quote, which was like, Alfari is the only better top laner than him. And so many people were so pissed about this that like the video got like 40% dislikes and it got ratioed. And I was like, you fools, stop disliking this video. It's hitting me, not Fudge, who you seem to be disagreeing with, and they didn't care.
Yeah, direct your hatred directly to Fudge at what is his Twitter handle?
No, please do not tweet at Fudge. But perhaps cheer against him if you feel like he's like, incorrect or something.
He says DM him on Twitter.
Okay, he says DM him on Twitter, so whatever.
At Fudge Cakey, if anyone.
Yeah.
I thought that this take was going to be a lot. This was a very respectful presentation by Mesh. I thought, if you're a fan of Fudge, you're like, where are all the haters now? Where the fuck are all the haters? After locking, everyone was flaming the shit out of him, and how hard he got top gapped by Someday and Alfari, and now where is everyone? Where are all those people?
Yeah, no, it's good to see him do really well. I know, everyone fucking hated him in lock-in because of the interview. I think that was the community turned on him because of the interview, where he called everyone bad. And obviously, he clarified later. He's like, I think I'm bad too. Everyone just wanted to hate him for that really hard. But dude, every team, I'm pretty sure, tried to go after Fudge in off season. So that doesn't happen when a player's just shit, So it's good to see him do good. Pretty sure he'll just keep developing even more. Because when he came from OS, like that was his first year playing. I'm fairly certain. At least that's what like everyone told me. Like Fudge can obviously correct. He's in the chat, but that was like his first year playing competitively. Was when he was with
He
Mammoth.
went to Worlds in his first year.
Pretty certain that was his first year, like actually competing. But I'm not sure. He's in chat. He can correct.
Yeah, I'm
Just what I
waiting for him to
remember.
say.
I didn't
Yeah.
see him before Mammoth. All I
Played
knew
one
about was
split in
just like the player.
OCE, then NA. So it looks like he didn't even play a full
Yeah.
year, and he went to Worlds.
So he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
He's coming in hot. Obviously, he's got like a really good team around him to help him develop. They've got like a pretty big, good staff there. So he's going to develop well, pretty fast.
I think I mean it's one of those things where he had some pretty rough best of 5 opponents right out the gate. You know, Someday and Alfari, and all of C9 wasn't playing quite as well as they were as the season went on, and so I mean he kind of got crapped on in those series, but that was like probably 1-2, 1-3 in most people's opinion of top laners coming out of last year that he was going to be going up against, and you have to play a full series against them 10 games in a row. Like that's going to make you look way worse than if like, okay, he played one game against them and then he played one game against Niles and then one game against Licorice and then you know, like it was a pretty biased sample size, you know, for why he took as much of a beating as he did. And like, he obviously improved a lot since then too. And yeah, I think I didn't have to make a top laner power ranking, so no one can go back and tell me that this is bullshit. But I definitely would have had him in my top 5 for sure.
So
what a bold claim in his top 5. That's
quick question for both of you.
That's me, man. Hot takes coming out weeks after that they were supposed to come out.
Okay, quick question for you, both of you guys, because the caller is leveraging this weekend's games as evidence, right? We've just spent a lot of time talking about the fact that 100T has a lot of problems. So how much credit should he get for his performance this weekend if we think that 100T is a fairly flawed team right now?
I mean, so
it's like saying you can't credit any people because like most of the teams are flawed.
I
So
said
every team's flawed.
I'm
You
asking
just can't
how
credit them because
much
this team's
credit.
shit, you know, like,
No, I'm asking how much credit, not does he get 0 credit. So that's what I'm saying. Is like, is there any discount, or is he deserve all the credit for rocking it this weekend?
I'd say it's like a 10% off deal. You know, a little bit from the lack of 100 Thieves coordination. The second gank on him when his wave was pushing by closer and the enemy team had TP after they just blew their TP on the dive and his Scion just farmed the whole wave from death and they try to kill him again. That's kind of a troll play. And, you know, at 100 Thieves. So that's 10% off his performance right there.
Because I guess my question is like, you know, if he played against Hooney, for instance, who's like on one of the top 3 All Pros, would we be feeling this good about his performance? Obviously, I guess we don't know. And
so I'm memeing, but like I think he played a lot better than he did the first time their first best of 5. And I think he's been improving over the course of the split. To the caller who was talking about it previously, blind picked the first 2 games. First counter pick was GP. He forced his flash 1v1. There were a couple ganks up there, but it was not most of the games were pretty slow, not that action heavy. So there was a fair amount of isolated 1v1 laning. And despite being counterpicked and ganked in some of these, he was usually even or ahead in CS. I think he was down 10 after the 10 to 20 on the Scion game, but like Scion into Aatrox is kind of shit. And then when he had his counterpick with the set, it was a nice counterpick. It worked really well with the comps, the comp he was playing into, and it's like a niche counterpick. So you like to see the champ pool flex a little bit. And then he had a huge CS lead over Someday with the Bork first build. So
it was kind of weird. They just blind picked Cho, the other team. Is that normal? Was anyone else in the world doing that? I thought that was kind of weird. I just kind of saw blind pick Cho, and I was like, okay, are they playing like Senate Cho'Gath or something? I was confused.
They were scared of the karma. Right? I think it was the karma flex, but
yeah, I was gonna say because Fudge previously showed that karma.
It was still weird.
It's kind of strange, but he did well on it. I mean, obviously, I think playing against Alfari Impact is going to be a lot more telling, like individually, but you still can't take away like how good like he's played on the team he's on. Obviously, it's going to be a bit easier than the best team, but he's still like doing his job for them, which is good.
Well, I continue to hope he pops off because I want my likes back on my Fudge interviews, and I think it's
I think people are
really
going to go back to
inappropriate.
your interview, Travis, and like it.
What's that?
I think people are going to go back to your interview.
I'm just saying,
You like
in
it?
the future, Fudge will probably continue to say very
Yeah, but-
bold things about how good he is,
Yeah.
and I will continue to make that the headline. And I don't want
You're
to get
gonna
all
keep
these
getting
dislikes.
downvoted when they go to MSI and he's shit talking Khan and Nuggery and stuff. You know, you think that's gonna do well for your headline when Fudge says that these guys suck?
At least it's more fun. At least it like gives some sort of rivalry, because I know like it pissed everyone off.
Yeah.
Like, for sure, it pissed like every team off when that happens, because everyone's just like, "Oh, the fucking ego on this guy, man."
I
Like,
thought-
it's just so fucked up. But like, even if you get mad at it, like it's good. It's good that like someone's doing that, because it's just
Well, I mean,
boring
I
otherwise.
was going to say like this
so boring.
for a long time. We have been sad that like LCS pros don't speak up, that there's not as much storyline and rivalry and all that stuff. I think we actually have a lot this year, and it's kind of going by the wayside. I've been a little critical because I feel like stuff's not being brought up as much, but. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that Fudge is saying all this stuff. Perkz is saying stuff. Core JJ, I did that interview with him today where he said he's excited to watch TSM Legends after he's beat TSM. I mean, that stuff is great. And there's a bunch of these pro players that are doing this stuff. So people complaining about this stuff can go, I don't know, watch a league that this stuff doesn't happen. I'm just happy we're finally getting this stuff again. So
That's really good, especially
yeah.
like if you get flamed back because you flamed, like good. At least people are interacting, you know.
yeah.
At least people are caring enough to say like, "Yeah, fuck you, man. Like you did bad. You suck."
Yeah.
Like, at least
Neo
they
said he's
care.
the best AD in the league. Like, that's great. I love that. Please, more. Anyway, thank you so much, Mesh, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our last caller?
Yeah, just shout out my wife. She's always putting up with me watching these games and talking about them. So she doesn't
Shout
really
out.
follow much, but
Yeah.
she keeps up with it.
It's a good shout out. I appreciate it. Thank you so much,
yeah.
Mesh, for the call.
Appreciate the take, man. See you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Last caller coming in. Kelby's still in the chat. He's actually watched the whole show. My God. Kelsey says this is too wholesome and then uses the hang up emote. Let's see, where are we? I believe Kyle0808 gifted another sub. I might have already shouted that one out, but regardless, thank you. OPTSM fan, 31 months says, nice hair by the way, Travis. Also, I love me some Nick Smith. There you go.
Look at you getting comments on your hair right now. Look at my hair right now. How are you getting compliments?
Mark, your hair looks
When we're in
great,
the
man.
same room.
Don't be insecure about it. It looks great.
Yeah. By the
jelly.
way, Mark's constantly doing like weird swooping things, but we went for like a socially distanced walk the other day, and he just like flipped his hair to the side at one point in time. I'm like, oh, okay, well there it goes. Anyway, Quill, where are you calling from?
Connecticut. How you doing?
Connecticut. Nice to talk to you. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
A lot of 100 Thieves talk, but my question is kind of in regards to Damonte's mental and like after watching the team play and maybe not doing as well as he thought they should have if he was playing or whatever the narrative is. What do you think he's thinking right now after they've kind of underperformed, and what do you think he's working on to like get back into the starting roster?
Well, here I can answer this question. He tweeted he retweeted a poem today.
Yeah, I saw that.
Sometimes you're the boxer, sometimes you're the bag. Don't flex as much as the boxer, don't dwell as much as the bag. Both get knocked down, both require the other. Learn, let go. Champions get knocked down, champions get up. Focus on what you do next. Focus on how you do next. So there you go. That answers your question. That's what he's thinking right now. That's where his mental's at.
I just want to apologize to the Twitch chat. I didn't realize I pulled this many 100 Thieves takes, so that's my bad.
I mean, it's okay.
Call it.
This is
I'll take that L.
This is a Damonte take. We don't need a dog on Quill's take. Quill's great.
No, I'm not blaming Quill. I feel bad that I brought him in last call of the night after all the others that I did.
Well,
Apparently,
regardless.
I mean, I would assume like he feels like shit. He
100%.
feels like shit that he got benched. and that they're losing because he probably feels like he could do better. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Probably feels like they'd be winning if he was in. Like I think that's just going to be every player's perspective, though, you know. But Tanner is very resilient. Like he's been through some shit on his teams and gotten back from it. We were on Fox together, and that was a shithole. That was probably the worst experience for a player to ever have working on a team. And he like came back from that and recovered. He ended up going to Worlds with Clutch, and then got kicked. Ended up having to like restart all over again. Like he's resilient, so like he'll be fine. I know Tanner like really believes in himself and has a really good mentality towards getting back from this stuff. But I'm sure he feels like shit that it happened.
I mean, I'm just worried. What I don't want is him to become the next Golden Glue. And that's a little bit about what I worry about, is that Damonte has had these really high highs, and the community seems to really like him, and yet he seems to struggle a lot with, like last year during this time he was not on a team. This year during this time he's not on a team. And I just worry a little bit for him, because I'd be really sad if somebody who I think he's fun to watch, you know, he's a native North American mid laner. He has several memes and fun stuff around him. Like it's unfortunate to see him consistently have these struggles, and I really hope he can climb out of it. You know, whether or not it's warranted or not, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I actually kind of agree with everything you guys have been saying. Like, I don't think it's unrealistic that 100 Thieves decided to go with Ryoma. And I think also with what Inero was saying in regards to like what Damonte brings, I think watching him in the Golden Guardians videos from last year, it seems to me like, in even following him from Clutch and all these other teams, it seems to me that he kind of brings like a traditional sports captain's like outside of the game like vibe to him. And I think hopefully he doesn't lose that. If like, obviously we don't know what his mental is 100%. But I really hope that he continues to bring that, whether that's, you know, right now or next split or whatever. But yeah, I think he does have a lot of community support behind him.
Yeah, I don't think Tanner will ever lose that. That's just how he is as a person. So I'm sure
I'm
he'll keep
worried. What does he do if like let's say the players on 100T are just really about Ryoma, which they seem to be. Like I hope he ends up playing on a team in summer, because that would be really unfortunate if he's not. But it feels.
How much do you like a
unfortunate.
Blaze Olive, Inero?
Oh, God. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back,
Damonte.
Tanner. Yeah. I don't think that one's happening, boss. He's an academy. Who knows what they'll do? I don't know
The
if one
buyouts.
of these wants to send anyone out of academy.
He's an academy jail. Is that what I'm hearing, Inero?
It's on a contract, bro. You gonna break him out or what?
I mean, we're asking if you're gonna break him out. I guess you
avoid his contract, Travis.
You guys can't afford the heist to get him out of academy prison.
Oh, no, man.
I mean, it is an interesting point, by the way. You have, like, I mean, if it is true that you have all these academy players who teams are going to want some sort of buyout for, and the teams that we have right now are like the big spenders that are spending on like Perkz and folks like that, and you have the folks who are not interested, like are looking for more rookie rosters. It's a really interesting challenge for somebody like Damonte, I think, to end up to escape academy prison.
For sure, bro. For sure.
True.
Okay.
Facts.
Well, thanks. I guess that ends that conversation.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know
you guys.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying you guys talked a lot about 100 Thieves, so I appreciate the insight on this.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Quill, for the interview. Or sorry, for the call. I don't know. I'm losing my mind.
Dang, did my own interview? That's crazy.
It's the
Dude,
end of the night.
The reason I didn't have a follow-up to what you said was because, I mean, no offense, I felt like you were speaking at half speed there, Travis, on that last point. I was like...
Yeah, I got a phone call.
What did you even say?
Somebody's trying to come in and deliver something, and I got a phone call. I got distracted.
Oh, okay. Because you're like...
I was like trying to finish my point while also like answering the phone to buzz the person in so they can pick up the thing from like the front of my apartment. I apologize, everyone.
No, you're good. It was just funny because I was like, you clearly. Had
My
something
point
on
is,
your mind.
I'm really worried for Damonte because it feels like it's going to be hard for teams to want to be able to spend the money to get him buyed out.
Yep.
There.
Yep.
Quill, anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, my boys in TIA. And thanks for having me on.
Very good. Thanks so much for the call.
Of course. Have a good night, all.
Yeah. Hey, before we wrap the show, we didn't really get like a call about the TSM and TL match, which I think obviously had.
We talked TSM versus EG.
Yeah, but
No,
we
we
never
talked
talked
about-
TSM versus TL, which is actually like a really good series, I thought.
Yeah.
Oh,
I could
you
have
mean
gone
like
either way.
This
you
past
mean like
weekend.
hindsight? Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought. Sorry.
So I just wanted to add this in. Jordan, if you're doing the topics, feel free to list this as a timestamp. But what did you guys think of the TSM TL match? I mean, Inero, it sounds like you said you thought it was really good.
TSM obviously could have won the first game. They had some unfortunate situations, and they kind of just lost off that play where they got wiped and lost Baron and everything after they had just used everything to break their base. Kind of blew for them, but I think they could have won the game. I don't know. They could have.
Yeah.
They could have won game 2 as well. They had a really shitty 3v3 around bottom that was just played pretty unfortunately. Could have easily won that game. But I don't know. It was a pretty close game. And it could have been, or a pretty close series. And I think it could have gone TSM's way. So I'm kind of just looking to see TSM through losers bracket and see how they do. Because I think TL is not that infallible. I think C9 is like clearly the better team from everyone. But TSM versus TL is pretty close. And I kind of want to see that one again and see what happens. But I still thought TL played really well. It just
you
wasn't
think C9 will beat
one-sided.
TL?
I think C9 just wins. Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I thought the series was fun to watch. I enjoyed it. I was watching on my couch that day. I think TSM did, kind of throw in a lot of ways, but I thought TL was pretty clearly the better team. I appreciated their drafts a little bit more, and the different styles that they could play. I thought Jensen played really well that weekend. After I was definitely a little critical of him this split. I always really liked Jensen, and I thought he was not as good as he usually was. But then this series was pretty much peak Jensen. I thought he looked really good. So it made me really revitalized that, like, okay, Alfare's slamming, Jensen slamming. Tactical had 2 good games on the Jin game and the Sivir game. The Triss game was still a little sus, but okay, maybe that's just a Triss Malphite problem. And then I thought Santorum was pretty good as well. So overall, I thought they all looked good. I don't think that they are so insanely good that if they play poorly against TSM for a series that they're still going to win. I think they have to play well, but it did make me more hyped for their level heading into the C9 matchup.
There you go. Well, I'm excited to see how it goes. I stand by my statement of this weekend is a little resident sleeper unless something crazy happens, but maybe the games will deliver and I'll be completely wrong.
Travis, you just hate League. That's just it, man.
Not
you just
true.
hate League.
So put me in that bucket too. Get me out.
Travis, it's because 100 Thieves dig. They don't have enough Twitter followers for you.
Yes.
Like, whoever wins on that, you're like, fuck, who do I interview?
That's
Who
what
do
I was
get?
saying.
You don't care about anything else about the game. You look at the Twitter followers.
Here's the problem. People will actually believe what you guys are saying and
why wouldn't they?
repeat this on Reddit or in YouTube comments, and then it will actually become a thing.
That happens with everything, Travis. Why do you care? Why do you care about Reddit?
I also feel like the amount of times and the amount of troll shit that comes out of my mouth about you, I have almost never seen regurgitated about you, but I have seen the things that you say about me that are
That
troll.
is true. I will say, when
I always
say
see that I'm
random
getting
bullshit
fired
about
by
you-
Riot or I'm
Yes.
quitting Riot because of shit that you say.
Also, Travis, you control the narrative. You could just cut out me saying that. You could just beep it the whole time and upload
Or
the
you
video.
can cut it together. Can we cut together for social some shit that Inero said that just actually slams his own players or something. Like, you know how he's talking about like it's the coach's job to tank.
Just ruin me.
Yeah, just totally butcher that segment where he's blaming Niles and all the other people on the team.
Yeah, just make it so I'm blaming. That'd be good, Travis. Just get back at me. You're the journalist here.
And then delete any other evidence.
Yeah.
Well, that's the show.
Yeah.
Mark, you got any shout-outs, plugs? Anything you want to throw out there?
No. I was doing TFT stuff with Kobe, and that ended right when playoffs ended. So now my Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays have just fucking opened up. So I'm probably going to lose my mind.
Last Friday was really weird to just have the day. It's like really strange the way that the LCS schedule has.
I went from like a day and a half off to 4 days off in the middle, and I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
What the fuck do I do?
Yeah. Inero,
Amen.
what do you got for us? Shout-outs, plugs, anything?
Nah, not really. No shout-outs. I don't think I've ever really said anything for your shout-outs. I'm just like, hey,
You usually talk about Golden
it's the
Guardians.
team I'm on Discord.
I think you int
Appreciate
your
them for the
shout-outs every
support.
time.
I do what?
You int your shout-outs every time?
I int them?
Yeah. Isn't that
You usually talk about
Yes.
you usually shout out Golden Guardians, I feel like.
Shout out my org again.
Shout
Like I
out
said,
your
good
O's
things
boys.
about them.
Shout out
Shout
all
out
your
my O's boys.
all your
Yeah.
brothers
Yeah.
from down under.
Nah. Everything's good. Everything's chill. I'm enjoying life. Thanks for the invite, Travis.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank
for the
you.
GD
Thank you for
Discord.
coming on,
The
even though
boys
you're
there.
on vacation.
Appreciate it.
That's very
No
generous.
problem, man.
So we had a conversation on this show about PoE and Perkz and who deserved to get the first All-Pro for mid. And what I should have said at the time, and I didn't say then, but I'll say now, is that is actually what Run It is about this week. So we're going to do a comparison of the two players and talk about sort of their results. And Tim will have some sort of conclusion, which I will not spoil, but folks can go check that out. And I have a Perkz interview that I will air after the stream. We'll do some smaller sub-goal around it. And so stick around, everybody. Should be a good one. Perkz actually complains a lot about something. He's pretty upset. I think it's going to start a conversation.
What is
maybe I
it? Tell
should
me
have aired it.
so we can start to hype it. Because just he complains a lot.
Let's just talk about it now, Travis.
Yeah.
He does not appreciate that that North America is playing playoffs on a patch that is one patch behind the rest of the regions for their playoffs. He also doesn't
Wait,
like
what
the
are we
schedule.
playing on? Are we not playing on 11-6?
No, you guys are 11-5.
And the rest of the world are playing their playoffs on 11-6. And so he's like, we're going to show up at MSI, and we'll have just played like on this
Maybe
ancient patch.
teams complained about it again. Because I know that's what happened before. Just complained to play on a different patch.
Well,
I feel like that's one of those things that
Who knows?
Riot can probably be pretty flexible on. It's just be like, well, we don't really. It's your league, as long as everyone agrees, you know.
well, we'll see if this interview sparks the revolution that playoffs will suddenly, or MSS will suddenly switch to a different patch. Kelsey Moser in the chat says Proving Grounds playing on 11.6. Ha 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 ha! Get wrecked. We're literally behind the curve for Proving Grounds.
Proving?
Proving grounds. It's like pro. You just saw pro.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
So-
prove that you're an idiot, Inero. That's what I'm gonna prove.
Fuck. Please, dude, don't prove me.
See you, Travis. This has been a good episode.
I can't wait for Proving
Later now.
Proving to come back. Anyway,
But yeah, is Pro coming back, Travis? Do you know? You're a reporter. You report on things. Can you
I
dive
assu-
deep into that?
I assume at some point in time they're going to bring it back. I mean, the only reason it went away was because of COVID. So
Like we have cameras that are like feeding, to Riot through like a pie or whatever. Can we not do the same thing? I don't know anything about technology.
I mean, my only concern is I don't know
Can
how
I
much
do that?
people were actually paying for the service last time. So it did not seem like it was a widely popular, successful service. That was the vibe that I got. So that's
mean,
my
all the
only
teams
concern. Is
loved it. Here's what you do: you keep it, but you jack the price up so it's super high and force teams to pay for it. So it's the circular funnel where like teams get money for being a part of your league, but then you charge them to use.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how embezzlement works, but maybe we can make this happen.
I think
And
teams
I'll
are
take a
really
little bit off the
happy
top.
would be really happy to give money to Riot right now. That's the sense I get. Is that teams would be thrilled to just
Let me out.
hand over
Can I
money.
leave? Am I out of jail?
You've continued the show. I mentioned the Perkz thing,
Mark,
and you said
can
you
leave.
want to
I'll
talk
give you
about it
permission
now.
to leave, man.
Thanks,
Good
thanks,
shit,
Inero.
Mark.
I'll see you later.
See you.
This has been
been
Hotline
real.
League episode 166.
All right, later, Travis.
Bye.
See you.
See you, man. Have a good
Thanks
one.
for coming on.